What's up, Colin?
How you doing, Jay?
Excited about this, dude. I wasn't sure, based on our past experience, if you were going to show up with like no shirt on and drumsticks in hand.
I wish, man. On the inside, I'm always shirtless.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, as you can see, I'm dressed up. I was
Very spiffy.
come from work today, yeah, and stuff like that.
I feel like we've been through a lot of like life phases in on parallel paths in a lot of ways. It's been interesting to be your friend and like watch where we've come from, where we're going, and now how our kind of roads have like reemerged in a similar train station, to use a really horrible metaphor. But
yeah, no, it's yes, parenthood, the kind of work we do. Yeah, just where we're at in life right now is very similar for sure.
Yeah.
Even just, I like that you open with the shirt thing, just to show that I'm wearing shirts now. So.
Well, like to riff off of that, I was like trying to think before you got here, like where on earth do you start? Because there's so many tangents. I would love to do a deep dive. But
Yeah.
I feel like you got to start at the beginning, right?
Mhm.
Like, I think the beginning for us was around 2009. I think.
Yeah, or maybe
10,
no,
9,
earlier,
8,
man.
8, 7.
Even
I don't
maybe
know.
even 7.
When did
something
you
like that.
join the band Echo Movement?
Echo Movement, I joined in 2005 or 6, actually.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it must have been earlier. So I moved into Belmar in 2006. I met
Okay.
Dave and Steven maybe not that long after. So.
Mm.
So yeah, I had moved into a beach town for people listening that don't live in our area. So I
Mhm.
moved in this beach town, the Jersey Shore, and it was a cool phase of life. We were all like, young and stupid, and getting drunk and high a lot, and
Yep.
it was good times. And then so I meet Dave and Steven, who are mutual friends, your
Yep.
former bandmates, who were
Yep.
in a band Echo Movement,
Mhm.
and I was doing a lot of and still am, a lot of like surf and ocean related artwork, and our paths sort of just merged because we were all in the same area, kind of overlapping friends, overlapping lifestyles,
Mhm.
and somehow it went from like 0 to 100. Like we went from like not knowing each other to having
Right
like, insane hangouts until 4 a.m, and
Yes.
people. And I remember Quincy was on the Indo board. It seemed like every night with his guitar, and
Mhm.
you were playing on the bongo or whatever
Mhm.
the hell that drum was called that I have upstairs.
Yep.
I don't. What's that called?
Oh, man, I don't even remember. I mean, you had bongos, you had a djembe, or was it a djembe, maybe?
Maybe
African drum?
something like that.
I can't remember.
Some kind of percussion thing.
Yeah.
But it was always like there was always like a jam session going on,
Yes.
and skateboarding down the middle of the streets.
Love that, man.
in
Love
the middle
that.
of the night.
Yep.
But I was talking to Jeremy about this recently,
Mhm.
and it was just like when you think back to those times, like what sort of goes through your head? Like for me, it was sort of like it's in a way it was like it was like the glory days. To
Mhm.
sound like an old guy, but like what was that time period for you? Because like when I think about, and as you're thinking of your answer, I'll just kind of paint the picture here. It's like you were the drummer of this amazing reggae pop band, and it was just super fun. And my memories of you, you're just always shirtless and drunk and just playing like a wild man. And then off stage, as you still are, just very articulate and kind. But
Yeah.
on stage, you're like just shirtless wild man.
Yes.
So what were those times like for you?
Oh, man. Well, I mean, obviously you look through it with rose-colored glasses now. You know what I'm saying? Rose-tinted glasses, whatever the saying is. But my first memory of you was this is classic David Fowler moment too. So yeah, I remember them telling me about you, and I saw your art and stuff like that. Immediately, it was just like, wow, you have such a unique style. You're so talented, man. And so we were naturally excited. It was a huge deal. I was like, oh my God, it's this amazing artist, wants to be our friend. He lives down the street. Awesome, cool. So, I think we might have did a gig, and we went to your house, and we hung out late at night. I don't know if this was the very first time, but I have a very distinct memory of this.
Okay.
We're hanging out at your house. It's like definitely 2 a.m. or something like that. It's just me, you, Dave, and maybe Chelsea was there too. We're in your kitchen, and Dave keeps talking about eating venison. So
Okay.
you're vegan, right?
I'm a vegan now. I
Yes.
was a vegetarian then.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I've always known you as a vegetarian or a vegan, right?
Yeah.
And Dave is clearly like joking, right?
Sure.
But our mutual friend Dave Fowler, who is the
Driest sense of humor.
yes, exactly,
Yeah.
songwriter, producer of Echo Movement, Dave and Steve are brothers, and yeah, when Dave tells a joke, you have no idea if he's serious or not. So, now I know you're a vegetarian. Maybe you told me that, or we talked about it, right? And Dave keeps going on and on about killing a deer and then eating it. And now I'm not getting that he's joking, because I still haven't honed my own, like, this is Dave messing around
Yeah.
sense yet. I'm still working on it 20 years later. And he just keeps going on. And in my head, I'm like, oh my God, this guy's gonna hate us. He's not gonna want to be our friends, and like we're messing this networking opportunity. I'm thinking like business in my head, and I realized like he's just joking around the whole time. And like I don't think until like the next day when I was like, Dave, man, did you forget? He's like, dude, I was joking. I was like, oh. I mean, he was getting into detail too. He's like, no, when you cut the flesh, you want to do this, and I have like my hands in my head. I was like mortified at your house. So that was one of my earliest memories hanging out with you.
We can just say, like, I think we could just say for the record, I'm not like an annoying, like pushy vegan.
Oh, not at all.
I have, like, some really close friends later that are hunters. It
was a test.
It's funny that you would. It's funny that would be your reaction.
Yeah,
I get that.
It was it's just you were a huge deal, man. I was like, oh my God, look at this artist, and we were young, and that joke was just, oh my God, that's classic Dave. And obviously we came to know you better and stuff like that. I remember recording at your house when you painted Burning Inspiration.
Yeah,
that was a great memory.
That was awesome. That was one of the tracks on In the Ocean album, and it was I call it Chillin', but doesn't it have a different name?
No, Chillin'.
Morning Chill, or so it was some.
Oh, the day after Chill.
Day after Chill.
Yes,
it should be called Chillin'.
Yeah.
Dave and Steven should have called it Chillin'. Anyway, but that was great. So that was a magical moment, because I was painting the painting Burning Inspiration, which got used for the album cover.
Yes.
And I'm sitting there painting it while you guys are literally recording a song that ended up on the album. And if you listen to the album, I love at the end, you could hear everyone kind of laughing and talking and clapping, and it was like literally in my living room. And there were so many like incredible moments just in that little living room. There was nothing fancy about it, but we had like Paula Fuga was there, after a show, hanging out, doing a jam session. I had Ron Bumblefoot Thal from Guns N' Roses hanging out, jamming in my house. Like, I can't even think about all the different random musicians and artists and stuff, and it was just like a magical time. Yeah, it was just really, really cool.
Well, I mean, you attracted that energy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's when I don't know what it's like being an artist, but as a musician, when you're socializing with other musicians, right? It's oftentimes very fun, but in show business, be it a band or Hollywood or any place you're trying to climb the ladder, quote unquote, oftentimes you find that we could be hanging and it's all good times, but there's always like a little bit of an agenda. Like certain people just I'm only hanging out with you because you're the next rung on the ladder and I'm trying to network, and not everybody's like that, and you get to learn who is genuine and isn't like that, and people that are. And I've come to find that like usually the people that are the most successful in their field, be it a band or an artist or an actor or something like that, they're pretty genuine. You know why? Because they're there because they are genuine, and they don't have anything to prove, anything like that. And it's those of us in the middle that, are seeing some success, but still trying to get somewhere, that like, it's very easy to treat people as networking objects instead of just genuinely being interested. So circling back to you, you worked in an adjacent field, right? Art, visual art, and fine art and stuff like that. And we were music, so we weren't straddled with those kinds of things. You know what I'm saying? It was more just raw appreciation, for people and the art, And again, man, I mean, like to this day, your art blows me away. I'm sitting in your studio right now. It's awesome, and all your work is always mind-blowing. I mean, enough that, we can get to that story later, but it's tattooed on my body, and you were there because you drew it yourself.
I always forget about that.
Yeah. So, it was just right away from raw appreciation. You appreciated the band and what we were doing. We appreciated what you were doing. I mean, that house, what was it, on 16th, right? 16th, yeah, man, the corner right there was just such a great spot to be in,
so, funny thing, so this is like a funny little tangent of a story. Anyone that knows my work, which is obviously not an enormous amount of people, but enough that I could share this funny story. So one of the paintings that sort of like helped launch my career, Right Past the Light, most people probably don't realize that house that you're describing that painting was painted there, but also whenever we had parties there, it was a very hard place to get to. Yeah, because it was a weird.
The parking.
You had to turn. I used to always have to tell people, like, when you go through the light, make a right past the light, and that became that became the painting.
Oh yeah, I didn't even know that, man.
And
that's awesome.
It was also the surfers like doing a right on the wave. Yeah, but it was like a kind of a double meaning, which a lot of my paintings have.
Yes, they do. Yeah, so clever, man. I did not know that. Look at that. We're learning something new every day. That house was a great spot, man. Yeah, the people you brought in, and the hangs we had, it was cool. We were building our own community, and again, the way the world is now, especially, I mean, we weren't doing Zoom back then and stuff like that. We didn't have our smartphones yet, I don't think, quite, or maybe we were just starting to have that kind of technology in our hands. So
people weren't glued to them, though.
No, yeah, and we were building, and this is something I'm actually trying to do right now, is like, don't overlook your immediate local community. You know, we're lucky to live in New Jersey where we do, where we're, you know, in a very populous state. We're outside New York City. We're, you know, we're in a good hub for art and all kinds of things, right? But, you know, it's easy to just go global in the mind. This is something I'm noticing too. I'm really just coming around this recently, is you know, I'm trying to connect with people in my immediate area right now: New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, you know, up in the Northeast. I want to connect with everybody everywhere, don't get me wrong, but you know, I think it's easy to overlook the importance of like your home in-person community, you know. And that was something with Echo Movement, that Echo Movement, you know, as we talk, I come back to it a lot. A lot of the press I'm doing right now, I still talk about Echo Movement. We haven't toured in over 10 years, you know, and stuff like that. But it was such a formative experience for me. I often say it was just as valuable as my undergraduate degree or other major training I've had, in that you learn how to treat people, and you learn the importance of the people in your local community. So, you know, I mean, when we started Echo Movement, they were already known. Dave and Steve had a nice thing going. They had the cover band, Indian Summer Band going. You know, they had their local community. They were proud, you know, proud people from, where were they from originally?
Wall,
right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, you know, I grew up just a little north of the beach area, you know, but I was always going to the beach and stuff like that. So I felt that community when I joined the band, immediately with you and everybody. And then just to watch it grow from like, you know, pretty decent thing to like, you know, headlining the Stone Pony and stuff like that, playing a Starland Ballroom, and like seeing it grow, it really spoke to me. And now today, I'm still coming back to that. I'm trying to just, you know, I want to be in touch with people that are within an arm's reach that I could see in person. You know, it's another thing. I don't want to go off on 1,000 tangents here, but like, you know, we got so used to Zoom during COVID, right? I hate Zoom. I will use it anytime to talk to anybody. I'm glad that we have that ability to talk to people.
Right.
But, you know, I just did a film, and, you know, the director asked, okay, you want to do a Zoom? I was like, no, I want to meet with you in person. He's like, oh, do you really want to drive all over here? He's got a beautiful content studio in Jersey City. And I was like, yeah. I just drove in person. You know, that energy doing this. We could have done this over Zoom. Nah, I want to come down. You know, I want to see you face to face. You know, that energy is important. So that was a bit of a roundabout tangent there.
It's so easy to forget that, though, isn't it? Like we were talking before we started about some different things, like reflecting back and looking forward and like being present and all that.
And it's three very different things.
Very different things. Very different. But it's like the more years you have, the more kind of ammo you have behind you to look back at. And lately I've been doing a lot of like searching, and I would like to know what your thoughts are on this. Like kind of thinking back to those like sort of like magic times that we refer to, and like sort of learning, sort of mentoring myself from my past self. Because I feel like some of that has evolved. Some of that has changed. Some of that I've lost. And I think it's important to not only mentor yourself or model yourself after people that are around you or famous people, but also there's times in your past where maybe you were more creative, or there's times in your past you're more productive, or there's times in your past you had more like feeling of like things were just clicking and working. And I've been trying to like kind of reevaluate and like reverse engineer like when my creativity was at its peak and when I felt more connected to what I was doing. And I've been trying to like kind of like get the screwdriver and open up the parts and be like, all right, what was I doing? What was I thinking? Who was I hanging out with? What sort of mindsets did I have? What was I doing differently? Because as we were talking about before we went live, like it's so easy to lose some of that. And it's some of it's good, some of it's bad. Like obviously a lot of it's, you know, you evolve, and then we both became parents, and like it could on a surface level, it could sound when you talk about these things almost like you're complaining. And I know neither one of us are, because like we love our children so much, and I wouldn't trade this for anything. But there are those sides to us that are those artists, the musicians that you rip your shirt off and play drums, or like, you know, paint till 4 a.m. and not care how tired I am the next day. Like, and those sides aren't necessarily the same. And so it's like interesting to sort of kind of reflect and like pick apart pieces of what was in the past, where you want to be, where you want to go, what were you doing. What are your thoughts on those sort of subjects?
Oh, a lot, man. You touched on a lot of things. Mentoring your past self, right? So, I mean, yeah, we are more knowledgeable, experienced now than we were younger, right? As far as that's concerned, it's a learning experience, right? Like if I were to mentor my past self when I was on tour with Echo Movement or doing the other things I did in my 20s, my basic advice would be like, chill the fuck out, man. You know what I'm saying? You know, I love the Echo Movement, going on tour with the band, just being on the road, not wearing shirts, right? It was just a sign of just, total freedom, being on your own, discovering with your boys and stuff like that. And I love that.
Yeah, while you're talking about this, can you like kind of paint a picture for people, like
sure,
at some of the peak moments? Because people that don't necessarily know the band,
sure,
and you guys should, but if they don't, I mean, you were doing Warped Tour nationally.
Yes.
Like, talk about
Sure.
something like the level you guys were at. It wasn't just like a local band. You guys were really going places.
Yeah. When I would say when I joined, briefly, I joined Echo Movement because Dave and Steve were serious about what they did. I was in jam bands and jazz combos coming out of my undergrad days and stuff like that. And I loved doing that stuff. I played with really, really awesome musicians that had chops, and but it got old. I just got tired of playing the same bar gigs at 2 a.m. on a Sunday, and it was more, the guys I were playing with were super talented. I love them to death. I'm friends with a lot of them still to this day, but they didn't want to go on tour, be an original band. They didn't care. They didn't want that, and I wanted that, right? So going back in the day on MySpace, when that was a thing, which what do I add? We really messed it up. MySpace was like the peak of social media, in my opinion. I think Dave and Steve found me on MySpace. I got a message from them saying, hey, so you're a drummer and that, you're close to us. We're serious about what we do. If you come to our studio, you'll see what I'm talking about. So I did. I went down there, and they gave me a couple tunes. I wrote the charts out by hand that's me. I like to write the music out a lot. It helps me remember it, write the notes and stuff like that and stuff. So I wrote the charts out. And to me, that was nothing. I was used to doing stuff like that. I was already writing music, composing music, doing gigs where you write charts out. But I guess from their perspective, coming with musicians that were more self-taught and stuff like that, they weren't. So when I showed up, they're like, wow, we've never had anybody be this prepared, And I played with them. As soon as they saw the studio, as soon as I talked to them, they were all business.
A little 10-foot by 8-foot studio or whatever.
Dude, whatever, man. Yeah, I mean, there was no studio where I lived in the pool house of a house I rented that I moved out of the apartment of because I couldn't afford the rent anymore. Because when I graduated, I said I wanted to play music for a living and not be a teacher or anything like that. So I was just freelancing. I was as broke as could be, man. So they were serious. I joined up with them, and it was just the three of us. And then we just started finding our boys along the way, finding the pieces, and it became, I would say, we were a pretty popular regional band. In the Northeast, people dug us. MySpace was a huge factor. So Dave and Steve, they own the business. That's their business, right? And I kind of slowly became the number 3. I did not want a full-time job. I was all in on the band thing. So I was like, what can I do, guys? And Steve, he's like, well, if you want, again, we were still in the MySpace days. Facebook wasn't even invented yet, blah, blah, blah. He's like, if you want to help get the name out, you can use this kind of, he showed me a little advanced search function to target people via Google search. To find MySpace profiles of people that like our music. And I would stay up every night till 3 a.m. I would max out the requests, the invite request every day for a year or two on MySpace. And it went from a couple hundred people to a couple thousand. And because MySpace was so great, when you open a page, you see a music player right away. It's all about the stuff you like. It's not about what you have to say. You know what I'm saying? That's what I miss. That got us a lot of people into us all over the country. And that laid a nice prerequisite work to, new album releases, which we did, and then all the groundwork before touring, and then, we landed that first Warped Tour, which was huge for us. We're like, all right, we're going to do it. We're going to go on tour. And we, meaning Dave and Steve, again, they owned the business. They were the ones that put their financial asses on the line. I have to say that out loud, that was their business and their burden to bear when we did it, and the aftermath of when we stopped for a while, That's an understatement. I'll leave it at that. But they risked it all, truly all, And so Dave and I fly to LA. We find a band that's selling the bus that we had, right? And
that white bus.
Yeah, the white bus with the bunks on it. Band already had it modded out with bus beds and stuff like that. So we get it. We leave LA and we're going to drive home across the country with the bus. And I distinctly remember leaving the parking lot, pulling out, and Dave's like, yeah, man, I feel really good about this. I'm like, me too. We're buzzing. Yeah. And then we broke down the first time in Barstow, and we broke down again in Arizona, and then we broke down again in Texas. And I'm talking desert roads in the middle of the night, the stars all around, and we're not moving. And we're like, what do we do, man? We broke down like 4 times on the way home. I think we replaced the entire transmission by the time we got home. So, you know, that was another growing pain. So anyway, Echo Movement did a handful of Warped tours, a couple of headlining tours, you know. We typically did 1 or 2 tours a year. So circling back to the touring days, you know, my older self would have said, you know, stop and smell the roses a little bit more. Like, I was so consumed with the business and grinding and getting to the next level and blah, 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 that, you know, I mean, I had a great time, and I'll share a bunch of memories, but, you know, I also missed out on some good times of just being pissed off that we got bumped to the opening act when we were supposed to be opening before the headliner in some show we booked, or like, you know, just, you know, we got dicked left and right, man, you know. It was a tough time to be a reggae band from New Jersey. The Jersey Shore was on TV, and that shit was a joke, and it really ruined the perception of our area. Not one of those people's from New Jersey, and even the people that they were meant to be caricatures of are not like that. I got plenty of friends from North Jersey that, you know, might fall in line with that image. They don't act like that. So
some of them do, to be fair.
Oh, sure, yeah, but like, you know, like it was a total
it's
farce.
Not typical, yeah.
You know, and that was hot when we were coming out, and you know, there was a bias. You know, we weren't from SoCal or Jamaica. You know what I'm saying? That was hard to deal with. You know, and we also didn't play dress up, and we didn't sing with fake accents. Yeah. So we were us. You know, and you know, we are a bunch of musicians that half of us are school teachers too. You know, and that just, I guess, wasn't cool enough to make it in the end, but didn't matter, man. We had a lot of fans and stuff like that. My current self would have told my past self to just kind of chill out a little bit, you know. Man, some of the other things you said were really groundbreaking too. Like, in terms of like trying to find out what was that thing that I had, creativity, that buzz, that hum, whatever it is that got me in touch with my creativity. I have a bit of a different outlook on that. So my creativity, if we're going to talk about it, for me, that would be being a composer, right? I've been composing and arranging and orchestrating music for 20-something years now. Only recently did I make the move to film scoring and media scoring, which we could talk about in a bit. But my creativity in terms of writing music was almost always based around like paid contracted work, right? So rarely did I just write something for me, right? Or something like that. So I always tend to view my creativity through like paid commission contract work. So I was able to view it more as a business a bit. But even still, yeah, man, like those magical hours at 2 a.m. slamming coffee, and I hit that thing and it's so great. Like, I think just as you grow as a creator, this is a testament to where you're at and where we're all at, right? Is the fairy dust and the sparkle of it wears off, and you start seeing it for what it is if you want to keep doing it as a real life. And it's a business. It's a business first, you know. So, you know, and also, you know, we're older, man, so we're just not as easily impressed, right? That's not a bad thing. It's just that I think we see the craft, whatever that may be, for more what it is. Like, if you want to do this and sustain this work, I mean, a very small percentage of the time is the magical creativity hours. Where when we were younger and we could live in pool houses and be broke as hell, there was nothing to lose, right? It was easy to be all about the art. You know what I'm saying? All right, as long as I just make my rent money, you know, I had no insurance, you know, as long as I can just eat something today, you know, and now we have families to care for, we have homes, right, and stuff like that. And those are all great things. We want those things. I wouldn't want to be living in a pool house at my age now. But, you know, we grow up and mature, and yeah, I guess I'm nostalgic for those moments where, like, it was just about the art and nothing else, you know, but it's a trade-off because this is something that doesn't make me feel so bad about like being in a touring band anymore. I do miss it terribly. I love our friends. We're all tight still. I miss playing with the music and stuff like that. But like, you know, I don't want to be my age with a family on a tour bus making no money, trying to quote unquote everything. Oh, living the dream. The dream is, you want to live the dream. The dream is like doing taxes and like cold calling for work and like budgets and, you know, writing 8,000 emails. I mean, I'm looking around here. How many trips to the post office do you have to make? Or UPS has to come to your house?
UPS comes here.
Right. But you're boxing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Nobody's doing that for you, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is like the harsh reality. Like people, you know, I'm sure ask you a million times. They definitely ask me a million times. Like, how do I make it? You know, like, how do I do this? And it's like,
what does that even mean?
Yeah, it's like, I think people, you know, understandably, like if we're doing our social media job well enough, or if we're doing our marketing job well enough, it looks like our jobs are like glamorous and all we
Yeah.
do is like float around like on lotus leaves and just play
Yeah.
music under a tree while the breeze
Absolutely.
is, blowing our hair and, just, that's kind of what, the image that we present, like, oh, you must just surf all day and just hang out.
Oh,
It's like,
absolutely. Yeah, sure.
like, unfortunately, when you do, and I've talked to like so many artists about this. I've talked to G Love about this. I've talked to people in some really big bands. I've talked to some artists that are very, very much more known than I am. Everyone says almost the same thing. It's like the more you do what you do for work, the more it's work. And it's like
Yeah.
that's sort until you get to the level of like, like a Jack Johnson, or until you get to the level of like, a Banksy or something, whatever. When you start approaching that level, then you have like giant teams.
Yep.
And then I assume you could probably fall back to like, I'm just going to like play music and paint, but then you have a bigger machine to sort of micromanage. But at our level, it's like, yeah, I'm packing these boxes that are over here and I'm unrolling bubble wrap and I'm dealing with customer service, and it's sort of hard to find that magic, but it's still very, very important to me to still have a hold onto that magic. And like, I think about some stories I've had with musician friends that we both are mutually friends with that I've gone to concerts with, right? Like, either they got me on a list or I got them on a list. Like, oh, I'm going to go to this show. Come with me. We'll go backstage, whatever. And it's like I'll watch. It's interesting when I go to concerts with musicians. Most of them, most of the time, I don't know if you're like this, are just sitting there picking apart the show, and I'm like, are you actually enjoying the music? Like, do you still enjoy music, or are you just sitting there like picking apart their performance or what their stage presence is, or what their marketing must be like, or looking around like deciphering everything? And it's like, it's probably similar to like if I go to an art museum or an art gallery or a show. It's very easy for someone that's not necessarily in that world to be like, oh my god, that piece of art is amazing. And in my head, I'm thinking like, really, that's like a piece of shit, or I could have done that in like 3 minutes. Like, you don't realize like, and it's like for me, it's also hard to kind of like hold on to that magic.
Yeah.
But for me, when I go to museums, or if I could go and stand in front of a Van Gogh or a Dali painting, immediately the magic's there, because like the level, the bar is set so freaking high. But I don't know. It is hard once you're doing it to sort of like see. To be behind the velvet rope and still have an appreciation for the actual process. So for me, I would love to know your process for holding on to the magic. But for me, I sort of compartmentalize it. Like when I'm over there at my easel, that's all that exists. I don't think about anything else, or I try not to.
Yeah.
I'm in the zone like I always have been. Then once I put the brushes away, then it's time to put on the marketing hat. Then it's time to be the business guy.
Yeah.
I try my best, and I don't always do it successfully, to kind of keep those sides of myself separate. Is that sort of?
I mean, yeah. I mean, that sounds like you know how to run a business. You got to compartmentalize. I don't know. You said before, like when you reach a level of Banksy or blah blah, and you have a team of people. To me, that means great. Now you got more people to worry about and more work to do. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know that it's necessarily easier. I'm equating it to what I'm doing now, which is like film scoring, media scoring, and stuff like that, where when you work with teams, the pressure of deadlines is so high, and if you have team members, and that there's a reason for that. It's such a technical process that if one thing goes wrong in the chain, it derails everything. And God forbid it derails the moment you're doing an orchestral recording session, where every time the minute hand moves, like $50,000 goes down the drain, and you're trying to fix your problems. You know what I'm saying? So
let's jump forward then. So we're at the band phase. Let's come to the present. So what are you doing now? How would you describe that? Okay, Colin, what do you do for a living?
Film scoring.
What do you say?
I always say this. I do film scoring. I'm a composer for visual media now. I had a 20-year career writing for instrumental ensembles, wind ensembles in high schools and colleges, marching bands, percussion ensembles, orchestras. I grew up in that world, right? And that was what I did for 20 years. And it was great. I had a good business going. I'd have a handful of high schools be like, can you write my marching band show or my percussion ensemble show? Yep. And then I would occasionally have like some concert ensembles ask me to arrange or compose something. And I mean, regionally, I made a nice name for myself. I never had to worry about the phone ringing. I knew the phone was going to ring. I was going to have a handful of jobs at a certain point a year. I could bank on it. It was a nice place to be. But long story short, the work wasn't fulfilling to me anymore. I kind of maxed out as far as I could take my own career within that field. I was trying to ascend higher, and it just wasn't going to happen. I didn't have the right network of people, whatever it was, right? And I just got kind of tired of it, and then I started falling into a mode of like I didn't enjoy the job anymore. You know.
I remember that time because I don't know if
Yeah.
you remember this.
We've had a couple conversations about
Yeah,
that
do you remember
time.
the conversation we had at Steven's house? It
Yes.
was like one of his kids' birthday parties.
Very
And we
specifically,
were
I
sitting
do.
in the hallway, and I
Mhm.
remember you talking about it, like trying to get the courage to like quit teaching,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
just saying how burnt out you were. Like,
Yes.
how'd you go from that point where it's like the band days were sort of over, live, you
Oh,
put a
man.
shirt on, and then you were teaching, and
Hardest
you were
shirt
in
ever.
an 8 to whatever
Mhm.
hours you had, an 8-hour day,
Yeah.
9-hour day. And then you were teaching, you had job security, had all the great things like that. Then all of a sudden you're like, well, I'm thinking about quitting teaching
Mhm.
and just kind of trying something else. And then you sort of were kind of mustering the courage up. How'd you navigate all that?
Oh, it was hard, man. I mean, I am, I'm a very stubborn to a fault, go-getter, accept nothing but perfection and the highest achievements kind of person to a fault. You know, I don't know that I've given myself the credit for some of the things I've done that I should, that affected Echo Movement sometimes. Like, I had a great time and I loved it. Don't get me wrong, we had a lot of fun and playing Warped Tour was great and I never took that for granted, but it was always like, cool, we got this. What's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? Like that, that still plagues me to this day. I'm just honestly just now recently being able to manage those feelings a little bit more. So when Echo Movement ended, man, it was dark. It was hard. A couple things happened. That's when I turned 30. And I told myself after undergrad, I was like, you got till 30 to do whatever the hell you want to. I to the huge disappointment of my parents, graduated college with a degree in music education. I said, I don't want to teach at all. And they were like, what? And I was like, nope, I'm going to do it. And I just freelanced the composing stuff I told you about, playing in bands, gigs. I did a lot of drumming in musicals and pit orchestras. That was a big moneymaker for me as a musician, right? And when Echo Movement ended, a couple things happened. I turned 30. I got my first spinal surgery 4 weeks before Echo Movement last tour. So I had like fresh gauze wounds on my spine on Warped Tour, which was not smart, but I did it. I got the surgery so I could go on the tour. That's how hardcore I was about doing it. You know, Dave and Steve said, we're not going to tour anymore. We can't sustain this model anymore. And the town of Old Bridge, where I grew up, had a job opening for an elementary school band teacher. Now, the irony of that, too, was, and even in college, I was like, I'm never teaching little kids. If I do, I'm going to teach high school or college. I'm going to teach advanced, older kids. That's beneath me, right? Well, when I worked with Echo Movement, I had a job in Wall, a part-time job at Wall Central. They needed a before-school band teacher to teach them lessons. So it was a pretty sweet gig. I made better than substitute teacher pay. I taught 1 hour class, and I was out by 10 in the morning. And that was a huge period of time of recording with Echo Movement. I would leave the job from Wall in my shirt and tie, and I would go to the studio and record our albums with Dave.
Wow.
Like at 11 in the morning. We would go get a bagel. I'd be wearing like teacher shirt and tie, playing reggae, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you saw it, it would look ridiculous. So when Echo Movement ended, it was dark, man. I got a full-time job at Old Bridge. Very grateful to my alma mater. I still work there today. Love it. I'm very lucky to be working there. It's a sweet gig. I've really been able to make it my own, and I've grown the program, and I've been able to kind of help recruit other good teachers to come in the program in some areas. And like, we got a wonderful team. It's a nice thing. It's about the right things now too, which we can talk about in a little bit, doing things for the right things, reasons, But it was dark, man. My band days were over. It was crushing. I would say for 2 years, I was just massively sad and depressed about it. I just felt like a failure. To me, I was like, great, I'm a school teacher. What else? And like, that's the mindset I fall into often, and it's a fault. It's not healthy, and it doesn't make sense to do that to yourself, but that's just, it's an issue with myself that I'm constantly dealing with all the time. Even to this day, there's days I just get down on myself hard about where I'm at, or like, and it's funny because I don't doubt my ability or the stuff that I write. It's never about that. Like, I know I can write music. I know I can hang with the big boys and do that. It's just that I haven't achieved that thing, like you said, the next level or whatever it is. And it's not healthy. So I had to navigate that for 2 years in Old Bridge. And then, okay, I came to terms with it. I started becoming more of a musician, more full-time, not full-time, but on my own time. I played a lot of musicals. I did a lot of that. And I love that. I love playing musicals. A little inside look on playing musicals. You're playing a pit orchestra with other really talented musicians in all these regional theaters around the area. it's challenging to your musicianship because you sight read like the whole show pretty much. You get like one rehearsal, maybe two, and then you just play the show. So they hand you a book of like 70 songs, and like often you just read. And sometimes when you sub for someone else, you are truly sight reading. Like, hey, can you sub for me this one night on this run of a show? Sure. You walk in, here's the book, you get there 30 minutes early, you look through it real quick, and you just read it as you go. Wow. So it's like this.
That seems like a superpower to me.
It's yeah. I mean, it's any good musician that is experienced can do it. You know what I'm saying?
Like for me,
yeah,
that seems magic. To you, it's like it's the same. Like someone watching me. Yeah. Like if you're like, hey, paint whatever. I'm like, all right, here you go. I painted it. Like
I wouldn't say it's like just anybody can do it, but anybody that's like does the work in that field and is trained, yeah. But even still, it's exciting, man. I mean, and also in the theater, like in the theater world, no two shows the same. Sometimes the actor comes in like 2 bars early, and you just got to figure out, we're on measure 37 now, and you just do it, and it's cool, and it's fun, and I love theater, man. I love the energy of it and the live music aspect, the connection to the audience. So that helped fill that void. You know what I'm saying? And then I kind of dove into my educational stuff for a while. I wrote some stuff, music for educational purposes. I published 2 percussion pieces, a marimba duet and a vibraphone piece, and I was cruising. And then something came into my life that was amazing that made me like open my eyes to another possibility, and it just disrupted the piece. Like I had a couple of years of peace. I think Echo Movement finished in 2012, 2013. In 2015, I had this amazing thing just drop in my lap. So I was writing music for a group called the Jersey Surf Drum and Bugle Corps. They're a professional drum and bugle corps. They go on tour over the summer. The drum corps community gets a little squeamish about this, but I'll just call it summer marching band. The reason they get squeamish with it is they take a great amount of pride, and rightfully so, in that it's like, you can only do it till you're 21, but it's very high caliber musicianship. You train a lot, and they don't like the comparison to like high school kids doing band, right? But whatever. So I was writing for them, and this actress, Janina Gavankar, she was in The League, which was a show I absolutely love, a comedy about just degenerate sports friends in a fantasy football league, and just awful show that was amazing. I loved it so much. The L Word, she's now on the morning show. That's an Apple show. She was True Blood, all these shows, like really accomplished actress. Also a very talented musician as well. She wanted to do a cover of a Martin Garrix and Usher song that they were going to release. She had the advanced copy of it. Don't Look Down, it was called. It was going to be like the summer blast, the summer tune, that year. So she wrote an email to the group, and the director passed it to me and just said, are you interested in doing this? And I was like, I just watched this woman on TV like last night, watching the show with my wife, cracking up, and I was like, holy shit. So like one thing I do give myself credit for is I will dive into any fire feet first, or head first, whatever you want to say. Like I will say yes to anything and then figure it out later. And that has served me well. And so it's not that I couldn't do it. I just, have I ever done a music video composition / music directed for a celebrity before? Nope, but I want to do it now. So
that is such a valuable freaking skill. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I feel like that, whatever you would title that skill to be, is so freaking valuable.
Fearless, foolish, whatever you want to call it, man.
I think that's like related to like just like the Jersey vibe, like just hustling, just making it work.
I do love that. Love that. Yeah, I like to wear that on my.
You can sort of like see that in everything. Like there's certain like areas that have their own personality traits. And I think that's one of them. And it's like you can see it like in the driving. People are like, how am I going to make this turn? I don't know. I'm just going to do it.
Yep.
Like
figure it out later. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's just like in the persona of like just like. And I think I don't know if you trace it back, but I feel like it's like a generational thing. Like so many people in this area like are like first, second, third generation Americans, and it's like a lot of us, myself, my grandparents came here from Europe, and a lot of people are like that in the area. And I think just like that. Under that ability or that innate like lesson that we were taught as a people of the New York metropolitan area, I think we've kind of learned from our parents, grandparents, great grandparents, whatever, on how to survive, how to make it work, how to survive on little, how to just do whatever it takes.
Yep. Absolutely, yeah. My grandparents immigrated from Scotland, and same thing. You can't even imagine what that's like. Just get on a boat and off to a new world. And
jeez. Don't you think about that? And it's like it's like such a cliche thing to say. Like people will say like the generations now are like entitled or they're lazy, whatever. Like there's some truth to that. I'm not saying all, but it's incredible to think what it really took for our grandparents, like not speaking the language, little or no money, not knowing anyone, not having necessarily a career that would transfer over, not having a place to live,
Mhm.
like every possible thing that was against them.
Yep.
And they still made it work. Like
Grit.
that's
Yeah.
freaking amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I also think that more recently I've come to discover as I've learned about, I'm heavy into film composing now, so I'm always learning people's stories, is a lot of film composers too. It's just like, yep, I'll do the job. And I've never done a film in my life before, but here we go. You know what I'm saying? And just diving in was it. So
keeps it fun. You have to have some level
it's
of
terrifying though.
Yeah,
it's terrifying.
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, like so the next day I replied to her email. I was like, I'm in. Let's go. What do you want to do? She was like, all right. And so we did a video chat the next day. And like the next day I'm like on a video call with Janina Gavankar. I'm like, wow, I was just watching this actress yesterday and now I'm talking to her. Oh my God. So she told me what she wanted to do. And I was like, okay, you got it. She gave me the tune. Again, this was a tune that Martin Garrix and Usher were going to release. And then she was going to do a cover of it like soon after to kind of like piggyback.
You skated right past like Usher. Like,
oh, no, well, I know. It's dude, I love Usher, man. I think he was the last concert I went to actually. So I wrote the whole thing in like a day or two. Like I just banged it out. I just stayed up all night. And the long story short, she went for it, and within 4 weeks, we went from that call to I made a mock-up of the tune. She ran a vocal session in her home studio in LA. I ran 2 recording sessions. I ran one in Pennsylvania to do some of the mallet percussion instruments, timpani concert stuff, and then we ran a recording session in Portrait Recording Studios in Pompton Plains, New Jersey. Chris Badami is the owner and the main engineer there. Super cool guy. I want to shout him out.
Okay.
We kind of just like everything about this video was last second. So 4 weeks, right? From like inception to shooting a music video. So we did the recording session in Pennsylvania was 18 hours long. We did it all in one day. Me and my friend Rich Klimowitz. We just recorded all these instruments at Millersville University in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. They had these beautiful like $30,000 marimbas and stuff like that. So great gear, great recording gear. And then in Pompton Plains, we recorded the drum line and the brass, right? Again, another 18-hour session, just all day long. And Janina was live at that one. The other recording session, she was Skyping and watching us from her trailer. She was on a show called Mysteries of Laura with Deborah Messing. So she's like in the city watching, And she was there. That was cool. Got it together. I think that the session was like 350 tracks or something like that. It was just so many instruments. Wow. It was crazy. And then put it together. Made a rough mix, and then we went to a black box theater in Camden. Camden County Technical Schools had a black box theater, which if you don't know what a black box theater is, it's a small theater room where all the ceiling, walls, and floor are all black, and then the light is used, and it's typically used in like a 3-dimensional kind of space. If you do a show in there, the audience might sit around the middle or something like that, So we shot in there. The lighting person we got to do the lighting was a guy that Gil Mason, and he worked at I forgot, DTX maybe. We'll have to look in that later, but a lighting company. We just knocked on the door with Janina and we were like, hey, we need lights in like a week. And he was a fan. He was like, holy shit, that's Janina Gavankar, and he did an amazing job. I think he set the lights the night before and slept in the studio and ran them the next day. I mean, this is like crazy automated lights that we automated the night before, and then we did the music video that day, 18-hour long video shoot. I mean, everything was in our way. I mean, I was the music director, so I didn't play in it, but she was choreographing as we went, and then I was able to help her choreograph and like kind of translate what the band instruments, we were using drumline instruments, what they could do and stuff like that. And we worked together, and I mean, 18 hours, we banged it out. I think the one of the lead cameramen running the show like had like an epileptic seizure the last hour, and like it put everything to a halt, and we had to get these last shots. So from beginning to end, my very long-winded point, now that I hit that, is that it was done in 4 weeks, and I just said yes, and I dove in feet first, and I just wore the anxiety of it, man. Like, I did not sleep for that entire month. I mean, I was like, I knew I had faith I was going to get it done, and I knew what I was doing. So there was no doubt in that. Yeah. It was just what was on the table to me at the time, and it was a huge deal to me, and I was just like, heart attack city every single night, all the way through to the end. But here's the payoff, man. Like, this is where, like I was saying before, I don't give myself enough credit, allow myself to, I don't know if you feel that way about the things you do, maybe you just pick your stuff apart and don't step back and be like, dude, like you did this, come on, like this is great, give yourself a break, I'm hard on myself like that, and but when something of that magnitude gets pulled off, it was like the ultimate high.
So
because it was like the way I felt,
yeah,
the success I felt was like almost like nothing before. It exposed me to show business. Janina had recruited like a bunch of her crew from NBC where that Mysteries of Laura show was being shot, and they like volunteered their time and their cameras and stuff like that. I didn't get paid for it either. We all did it for free, and we had no problem with that because Janina was so cool, genuine person in Hollywood. Great drummer, musician, like killer musician, man. Like, so she gave me notes on the score that were very legit, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, okay, and I made the changes, you know what I'm saying? And she played the drum solo and learned it in 5 minutes before we shot it in the music video. She like joins the drum line and like does all this crazy stuff with her sticks and stuff like that.
What's the process like creatively when how you just described that, anxiety ridden, stressed out, like fucking borderline heart attack. Like,
yes.
I think that part of it is like related to like the ethos of like you have to suffer as an artist. I think there's some truth to that. Like to like the procrastination on a more passive side. It's like we procrastinate until like I do this to the last minute for the deadline because that pressure does something.
Yes.
And I feel like there's some truth in a way where it's like if you're suffering or stressed out, it's like it makes you tunnel visioned.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a completely, I don't know completely.
I would separate those two ideas.
I'm going to ask you, but I don't know if it's completely different. But there's also a type of creativity where it's like you're just sitting on a boat or at a beach or like, just chilling in the bed listening to music, and it's like complete calm and like the furthest thing from that anxiety-ridden state.
Yeah.
Yet both of those can produce or instigate a creative zone.
I see what you mean. Okay,
that's sort of what
that's a good point. Yeah, wow.
I wonder how do you feel about that? Because for me, it's like I see myself do some of my I don't know if like best work is definitely not the answer, but maybe some of the more like epiphanies that I get happen during like the stress anxiety type situations. Like, oh my god, the deadline's in like a day or two, gotta freaking make it happen. Or I have an art director like asking me to make changes and I never wanted to do. That's one type of creative process, but then it's also like, back in the day, it doesn't happen much nowadays when you're just so chill, or I go surfing and come back and I could just
I was thinking that when you said that, I was like, do you still have that time? Does that exist for you?
It's really, really, really rare. Really. I like you are kind of like more like high paced.
Yeah.
My mind is much more high paced, which is funny because I have a lot of people saying like telling me things akin to like, oh, your presence is calming, or you seem very relaxed. And it's like, I work really, really, really hard to not be a stressed out, high strung, anxiety ridden person. I think I do a pretty good job at it, but I don't often let myself just chill. It doesn't happen.
No, I don't think our lives allow for that at all. It's funny you said that. I had to do so another thing. So I always try to, when people say, "Oh, what do you do?" Like I always say that I'm a film composer, I'm a teacher. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't try to hide
a dad.
And a dad. Yeah, because like that's what you got to be your authentic self, right? Like, I mean, what's the point otherwise? I think people can smell BS coming off of people that put up a front or try to hide a part of their life. Like, this is what I do, right? So, what my point is that like I forgot what my point is actually.
Like we're talking about the creative process, like anxiety.
But versus the chill times, Like
where does your best work happen? Like the work
it only happens in I would say 99.999% of the time it's in the pressure filled thing, because I think this might be a difference. This is what I was trying to say. This might be an interesting difference or not between like fine art painting like you do and music for some type of production, right? Not standalone artist album music or whatever it is, or composing, releasing a piece that is completely your standalone. That's the show, right? Almost everything I've done, with the exception of Echo Move, I didn't write the music in Echo Move, though I just recorded. Is for a project with a deadline, so I don't excel in the like super. My mind is free, I have nothing, and let me freely create with no pressure. I'm almost never in that space, so I think I do my better work here. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be like that.
I think I'm the opposite.
You more relaxed.
By nature.
Yeah.
I feel like as we were talking about a bit ago, like saying how I like look back and try to pick apart like when I was my best self in certain aspects of life.
Mm-hmm.
I think like when I had the schedule, lifestyle, mindset, whatever job situation where I could just like throw some music on and just like paint all day,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I was doing the work that I was most proud of. I still have created work since then that I'm extremely proud of, but it was more of like, it was more common back then to have that process, and it happened more frequently, like one situation after the other, like one painting after the other. It was like just like chill, you know. Some of it was obviously, but it stress, but it didn't have like, it was more like stress from like, how do I solve this artistic problem?
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't stress of like, I got to get this done.
Yeah, because someone's calling you.
Yeah,
and,
like I actually hate that.
I mean, I don't.
You like it though. You thrive.
No, well, okay, yeah, I'll say that because just because I have to. Like it's always for a team as part of something else, and that's what I think me going into film scoring recently is. It's driven by like almost all the music creative work I've done is all of it. Again, like 99.9% is with other people on a team for something that is bigger than just the music itself, right? Even Echo Movement. I mean, Echo Movement is a band with songs, so yes, it's the most creative form of write what you want, do what you want, right? But you're still, there's a genre and there's a message you're trying to deliver. So that, you know, I'm trying to imagine what it is to freely paint. You know what I'm saying, and be in that moment. And I need parameters or a story, you know, and the story could be abstract. It could be someone could tell me a story and I'll just like make 4 bullet points of notes, 1 sentence each of just what the big ideas are. Like, oh, I did this and then I got up and did this.
Right.
And then I'll write something to that and I'll fill in the blanks of the story and stuff like that. But true free composing, I've done a couple things, not much. Even the stuff I published, like I wrote 2 little mallet solos, for like students to learn, like intermediate level stuff a high school kid could practice. And but even that had the parameter of like I wanted to make it achievable for that age group to play something new and cool that still serves an educational function in music. Like
I feel like
I need a story. That's what it comes down to.
Tell me if I'm wrong in this assumption, but I feel like our conversations over the past like X amount of years, a lot of it's been focused on finding like the path that's closer to like meaning and purpose and like contribution as opposed to like let's create a project and bang it out. Like we have had those conversations also, like different ways we can do things.
Those two
like,
things
like Fairy Tales project we did together, like certain things we did that was like, what can we do that makes us feel important? What can we do that we feel like we're
I love the things we
contributing.
We should talk about that in a
100%.
I want to talk about that exclusively. I like doing that so much. But
like
I'm sorry. You like I'm trying to. The fact that it's under pressure and stuff like that doesn't affect the amount of positivity I get out of it. I would say I still feel great when something's done, even under stressful conditions. When it's really good, it's more rewarding. So, and just you were saying wearing I remember that, suffering as an artist. Like I think, and how we talk about that and we feel it's necessary, right? I think part of the suffering artist thing is something we proudly wear on our sleeve. You know what I'm saying? As painting artist or a graphic artist or a composer or a musician, any kind of art, right? We wear the suffering aspect as a point of pride, which I think a lot of people and places do. Their unique suffering to them is a point of pride. It's part of who they are. They present that, right? But I think it's suffering and like grinding are 2 different things. You know what I'm saying? And again, like I don't like being super stressed, and nobody who likes being super stressed or anxiety, but yes, like sometimes your best work comes out of that. Becoming a parent and losing all your free time to do said art, right, makes you have to be, I don't know, here's a question for you. Are you getting economical with the way you paint because you know your time is shorter, like you're making quicker choices?
100%.
Yeah, and it hasn't made you a better artist?
No.
Really?
No.
Okay.
100% not. No. I would say that
like
it's definitely
execution-wise or like...
So for me... Yeah, so I had 3 kids within 18 months. It was a major change. And again, just to preface this for anyone listening, like I wouldn't change it for the world. Like my kids are the thing I'm proudest of that I've ever created in the world. Like I would trade my entire art career for my family situation and my kids. So like I'm not complaining. but we're speaking as an artist. As an artist, yes, I've become much more proficient, much more economical in how I do things.
Yeah.
For me, that goes sort of against my favorite way to create the process. Like for me, I used to spend 2, 3, 4 months on one painting.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was like almost like method acting. I would get lost in the painting. I would become the painting. Everything I saw every day of every waking hour had to do with the painting. Like I would look up in the sky, see a color, and I'm like, that's the color I've been looking for.
Yeah.
Or, things like that. It was very connected process. And for me, I think some artists, some musicians are very much like chop driven, or they have like tricks, or they have a certain amount of techniques. Like visual artists, for me, it's much easier to see. Like, oh, you have that trick because you do that one thing, whether that thing is like a subject matter or a way you shade things really fast, or a thing you do. It's like very obvious that you're doing that because that's your trick. For me, yes, of course, everyone has sort of like their chops or their skills, but for me, it's more about like, I love just kind of letting go and like almost having a spiritual aspect. Like
That's awesome. Yeah.
I love seeing like my paintbrush move around, and like it doesn't happen all the time. I wish it did, but it happens frequently enough that I'm chasing that feeling of like, whoa, what's my brush going to do now? Because I literally have no idea where this is going.
Yeah.
Like when I can get so lost in a piece and I'm like, I don't know where that just came from, but do it again. That was fucking awesome.
With oil, you'll do that.
Acrylics too, but I definitely
a way that you can't undo.
Right.
That's what I was asking. Yeah.
Whereas
that's hard. That's hardcore, man. I feel this, and you do it in that moment. It's permanent.
When it's a feeling, like
sorry, I keep moving the table.
Oh, that's cool. When I'm most in the zone, I'm 100%, not 99.9, 100% sure that whatever I'm doing is not only going to work, but I know it's the exact right color, exact right way to do it. Like it's just happening in such a confident way. That's the best freaking feeling.
Yeah.
But going back to what we were saying, it's like since becoming a dad, since getting older, since having more responsibilities, since having less time, I don't have I don't give myself / I don't have that time to just do that. It's more like I gotta get this done, or I like don't have 4 months to spend on one piece because I have bills to pay and things to do and projects. So it's like, so for me, I don't lately meaning the past 10 years, haven't had as many of those experiences as I once did, which is part of what I'm trying to get back to. Like I'm trying to make those things more frequent. So I don't have, does that make sense at all? Like
time-wise? Like you're giving yourself the hours back, you're just finding another way to get it done.
I'm trying to be more proficient, but I'm also trying to like tap into that quicker. Like strangely, I would say that like being more like unreliant on chemicals or things like that has actually helped me. Whereas once there was a time in my life where I didn't think it was even possible to make a masterpiece or a good painting not being completely wasted the entire process. And I've come to realize that it is definitely super fun doing it that way, but a lot of times you would take these weird tangents, you don't realize till the next day you're like, what did I do? Like at the time it felt like so like
of course in the moment,
I'm there, bro. I'm like in the zone, and the next day you're like, what the fuck was I thinking? You know? So there's less of those like things to fix or correct because it's like you're more. So I definitely paint a lot more, just almost all the time, just completely sober and straight and clean, and so it's a different feeling.
Yeah.
So.
Well, okay. Yes, I know exactly what you're saying, and I think part of it's growing up. But I've always felt this way, and I'm kind of happy I felt this way since I was young. Like I never felt that there was anything you could take or do, chemically to get high or messed up or whatever. Right? To me, I always found it false that the art came from any of that. You know what I'm saying? The way you appreciate it might be altered, and that might be valuable to you. You know what I'm saying? But that's different than saying like, oh yeah, I do this well because I do this. Like, if you say that, you probably have a problem, and you're not going to be successful for long, likely, with some probably massively historically important exceptions. You know what I'm saying? But like, I always told myself that, like, it's. Like, to me, and maybe this is part of the Jersey guy thing or just the way we grew up again, like, it's a job, you know what I'm saying? And like, you got to take pride in it, and being messed up doesn't make you work. man. You know what I'm saying? And then as we get older and we see how our responsibilities increase and change, you know, with running your business and stuff like that, like you can't do that packing the box, or you can't do the email writing or paying the bills and do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if you're serious about what you do as an artist, well, all those things are a given. You know what I'm saying? So I've always been careful and guarded to, like, you know, I love experiencing music in all sorts of ways. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
But like when it comes to doing the art of music and playing and writing and executing it, like, no. Like it's just it can't have a place there if you want to be your sharpest. You know what I'm saying? And on time and stuff like that. So that's where sometimes, like, playing a band, festivals and stuff like that, and like, oh, I gotta take this or that to enjoy the experience. I'm like, that's sad.
Yeah.
That's sad. Like you're missing out. I know what you're saying. Like, oh, I've been staying up all night and been drinking or smoking whatever, and I'm on a roll painting, or I'm on a roll come up with cool music, and I feel great about it. Blah blah. Like, yeah, I get it. That's great, but like that comes at a cost. You know what I'm saying? And then, like you said, you wake up the next day, and how much it was really that.
Yeah.
So on this topic, I do have more valuable insight on it now that I'm older and currently. Like, I find that, what do you want to say, altered mind states, you know, or you want to have a drink or you take a puff or whatever and listen to something. We'll say listen or look at your art, maybe, you know. It's useful for like resetting your mindset after grinding and being unhappy and frustrated, you know, and like you're losing sight. I don't know if that happens when you paint. Like you said, you get pretty far on the inside, but in music, it's possible. If like I start just like losing my mind over 2 beats, like a drum fill or something like that, right? I could spend 2 hours just messing with that and then forget that, like, dude, you're talking about 1 second of music in a 10-minute thing, and you're just spending 4 hours on it. You know what I'm saying?
Then it's like you produce it to death. Like I've definitely done
40,000 foot view at all times, man. Big
definitely
picture,
done
you know?
that with paintings, where it's like it has, like, you know, at the beginning it has like this nice looseness to it, and the middle phase it's still magic and loose, and then sometimes you go and get lost in this one section, you start tightening.
Yep.
And then you start polishing.
Like your view is just
you get zoned in. You're like, oh man. Then you start getting even closer. You're like, oh, I need to paint this like reflection of a water drop on a guy's toe that's in the background, like whatever, stuff that no one would see and maybe even, you know, care about. And then it's like the next day you look at it, you're like, oh my God, now I either have to like re-loosen that section up, which is impossible, or I have to like tighten up the rest of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa.
Again, I just want to say, with no undo button, that's always me paying respect to what you do with your visual art, man. Because, like, you know, if I'm recording or whatever, working in a DAW, like, okay, next day, I hate all that. Cool.
Delete.
Save
undo,
it somewhere else or
right.
undo. Yeah, exactly. Like, and okay, just start fresh. Like you said, you're committed to every stroke, which is just like, sick. I mean, the only equivalent I could say is just live recording. That's really the only way. And even then, if you're going back and editing it,
right,
you're still able to put some polish on it where you can't, you know. It's just funny. As you were saying, like your vision, I'm like, you're literally not seeing the big picture. The big picture's right here, and you're like, woo, right up on that,
which is super fun. But you were talking before about like some collaborations. We've done some super fun things. We still
recently.
do. So we should definitely talk about current.
What about the first one though?
The fairy tales.
Yeah.
So
you want to set that up?
Yeah, so I'll set this up. So one of my paintings, fairy tales, like these 2 mermaids. This was a piece that I basically spent a winter in Florida in 2010, I think it was.
I remember those times.
That entire winter that I was there, I worked on one painting, which is what we were talking about. And I got lost in this piece. And this piece has a lot of like meaning, a lot of like hidden messages and visualizations and all kinds of crazy stuff because, like I just talked about, got freaking lost in it. I'm like, how can I take it to the next level? How can I go one level deeper? How can I add more story to it? Like, just got crazy with it. And so, like, fast forwarding, we moved out of Florida, moved back to Jersey, and a girl that I went to yoga with, Alyssa, she was a dancer and part of a dance troupe or whatever you can call it, a dance group. And they were like, hey, we want to, we have this idea of like kind of choreographing a dance production around the meaning of your painting, which was super cool. And you got involved. You were doing like the marimba, I believe, type percussion music.
And it was like a percussion trio, I think, with like all multi-percussion, like timpani, vibes, and marimba, all live acoustic percussion. Yeah.
And I got to say, you probably appreciate it more now that you're a dad of young kids. But at the time, I think my twins were born at that time.
Yeah.
I believe. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure because I was wiped out, exhausted. I was mentally,
I remember
physically,
talking to you on the phone at
I was
work.
so
Yeah.
like next level exhausted. Hadn't slept for a year maybe. So tired, financially not doing great, just in a bad, not in a great place, let's say.
Yeah.
And like but still trying to like do cool things. And so
Mhm.
we had this like production. We had the Algonquin Theater. With
Yes.
I don't know how
Awesome
many,
venue. Awesome
hundreds
venue.
of seats, and
Yeah.
and then so you jump in, you get involved. You know,
Yeah. Did I come into that kind of late?
I think so.
Like you already had it set up.
We
with
were
all
talking
this-
about kind of having music, and I'm like, no, we should
Yeah.
like do it legit. We should have like real.
I
music.
can't remember. Yeah. What was the initial thing that said, let's go with live percussion?
Mr. Percussion Guy has to hit the
I know
table.
that's me all the time. Sorry, I can't help it. I'm a fidgety guy. I
That's
notice
okay.
I can't ever sit still. I forgot what like the thing that was like, yeah, let's get a live percussion ensemble. But maybe it was me. You wanted some live music. I was like, well, I got some friends percussion. Maybe that's what it was. But yeah. So I love fairy tales. It's one of my favorite paintings. So if that's the result of your process of taking the deep dive for hours and hours and hours, then I mean, okay.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to paint that in a more economically challenged time-wise, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done half the cool things about it. I would have just done probably just the basics, the two mermaids, and that's probably it.
I mean, obviously every painting tells a story, every picture tells a story, right? But like I wonder, like that painting had a multi-level story that you can almost describe in like linear time. Like they are here and they're looking up to here as it rises. So like that's a deeper context than maybe like, maybe you're capturing a live moment in a park or something like that, or doing a still or something like that, or where it's you're just capturing a moment. And yeah, there's a story, but it's just like, this person's doing this in the wind, you had multiple concepts tied together. And I'm just wondering if that's another thing that elevates the painting besides it's just awesome brilliance and excellence on its own. You know what I'm saying? Because your video about it, where you break it down, I love that video, man. My chops were looking to score that when I saw that. I was like, this is amazing. The way, you pulled the elements out, the way you've edited the video and stuff, it was...
We've talked about this.
I've shared that video with a lot of friends.
That's sort of like the place that I want to sort of, I don't want to say get back to, but kind of launch off from. I liked where my career and my art was going at that point. And I would like to do more of that stuff. So
okay, then I have a very to the point question about that. What, and maybe it's all the same thing, but like that's like a passion project, right? Now you have passion projects, and then you have projects that pay the bills, right? And sometimes they're not the same thing. Is that what holds you up from like doing something more freeing or more deeper like that? Or are you just focused on trying to do stuff that also keeps the revenue? Because like, and just for everybody out there, like we all have to do that, right? Like there has to be like, if we're going to do art full-time, compose, record, paint, whatever it is we're doing, like there has to be some kind of revenue coming in on the regular, even if it's not your all the time job. At this point in our lives, like if you're going to spend the hours doing it, it's got to be a return on your life, and stuff
100%.
like that. So, does that affect your decision on when to do like a deeper dive painting like that, or does it have an effect on you even be able to do that?
Totally, absolutely, yeah. I mean, so I should preface it by saying that doesn't mean that I don't put just as much of myself into all the other work that I'm doing, like the paintings that I'm currently doing, the projects I'm currently doing. Like when I'm actually doing it, I kind of like unleash. Like remember from like Indiana Jones, we opened up the Ark.
Yes.
It's like when I start the piece, whatever it is, whether it's for a freelance piece or whether it's for a painting, like I like open up the Ark. I'm like, fucking get to it, bro. Go crazy, right? But that being like the mindset or like the choice of like what to unleash that on definitely is at least influenced by expectations, or at least pushed in a direction of like this might do better for like my family. But I still do these projects like the NFT thing that we're working on, or other types of things that I still do a lot of stuff to make sure I remain like the student, or I remain humble, or I remain learning things, or I remain kind of like on the edge of like, hungry and challenged and stressed out. Like I still try to like, instead of just falling into like the path of like all I'm going to do is paint ocean waves and surfers or whatever I'm expected to do. Like I
Right,
still
right.
do that, but and business wise, that makes the most sense.
Mhm.
Like if I just kept doing that, like a lot of people in my genre or people that have their own genre that's different than mine, like they stay in their lane,
Mhm.
and that's really smart for like an artist. Like it's very smart because
Mhm.
people get like expect you to do a thing, you do the thing. You know, it's very transactional. I want you to do this thing. Do the thing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Do the thing again. All right, cool. Do the thing again. It's like I've talked to many, many artists about this, and like some of them may not say it on a podcast or in person or in public, but like behind the scenes, you hear the stories of like, yeah, of course I want to stop painting or creating or whatever it is, this thing.
Mhm.
But you know, you fall into you know, a trap of expectation. So I'm not really good at just staying in one lane. I kind of keep taking these like tangents and like keep exiting at these weird places just to make sure it's still fun for me, to make sure it's still like seeing what else I'm capable of doing.
I think that's smart too, man, because it's not, I can't imagine, you know, are you judging painting and artist standards compared to like history, like famous painters from hundreds of years ago? And if you are, I mean, like, all they had was the canvas.
Yeah.
That was the lone media, in person, see the canvas. Like, think of the exclusivity of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And how that was like at the center of culture back then. Like, in order to stay at the center of culture now, the way we are as people, like, you have to have a diverse amount of content. You know what I'm saying? So to me, it's not surprising at all to hear you say that. Like, well, yeah, I get, yeah, the surf waves and stuff. That's like one of the iconic looks I'm known for. I'm going to keep doing that. But what about this? You know, I don't see that as a point of like shame or like, you know, I mean, I know, I get it. It's belly aching. I mean, I've written stuff that like I've done for money. Yes, I've done that, you know, where I'm like not feeling it all the way, you know what I'm saying? But you do it, and I'm still grateful to do it, but let's be real. It's the way it is. Right.
Sure.
But, the deep dive one, like, also, I feel like it's for you too, just personally, right? Because you listed all the other reasons that make sense to do that and stuff like that, but I didn't hear you say like, and for my own artistic satisfaction, like, do you still, when you did fairy tales, for example, was that like a bigger feeling of success and self fulfillment than doing X amount of other things that you replicate often or something like that? Yeah,
yeah, totally.
So you need that as the artist, then.
You need it.
So
I need it.
Yeah.
I don't think everyone's that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've talked to artists that they're very content just doing one style or one subject matter, and it's like more of like just a recipe for them.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people like love it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not me.
Yeah.
Like I need to feel like I'm challenged. I need to feel like I'm contributing. I want to feel like this is how my brain works with it, and this is not right, wrong, or indifferent, whatever. But like when I go to a museum, I like see visually. I see like the legacy that this or that artist left. And I think about that all the time. Like, what can I leave? What can I do? What can I create that is pushing the envelope of like what I'm capable of, or maybe influencing people, or like how can I make something like I wasn't given really like amazing athletic ability. I wasn't given the best looks. I wasn't given a lot of things that some people have. So for me, I was given this art thing, right? Talent, curiosity, dedication, whatever it is, I don't even know. But I was given that thing, and I'm like, I want to see why I was given that thing, and I want to see what I can do with that thing.
That's deep, man.
Like
your painting is you finding out why the calling happened. Is that kind of what you mean?
Wow. Like, why was I given this thing? Because like, you know, being an artist, for me, everyone's story is different. For me, like I was like a really like anxiety-ridden, stressed out, socially awkward, weird kid. Like to be honest, like a lot of my childhood was like from on the inside was like very tumultuous.
Yeah.
Was like some of it was torturous. Like I didn't know what it was like to feel calm. I didn't know what that even was like. I didn't understand. Like most people are not full of stress all day long. So for me, like the art thing was like an escape, but it was also something that gave me validation. And so I still think of it that way. Like it's what if I'm not doing great work, my self-esteem goes down tremendously.
Wow, that's
it's
exactly
not healthy.
how I feel.
It's not healthy, but it's true.
My happiness and pride is directly tied to what am I doing lately right now in this moment. And when nothing's going on, it goes down. Man.
Yeah, like we'll be, you know, like me, you know, we as a couple, like me and Chelsea, we'll have, you know, periods of time, months, years, whatever, where we're doing well financially. There's nothing necessarily to worry about currently. But if my work is not feeling like I'm contributing in the way that I want to, or if I'm not feeling fulfilled, then my mind feels like it's in a poverty state.
Yep.
I don't feel like I'm, like you said earlier, you're not worthy.
Yep.
I feel like I'm a waste
Doing
of space.
nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like I'm wasting my time. I feel like I question what I'm doing at all.
Yep.
Maybe I should go get a different job.
And you start talking down to yourself and
Yeah.
insulting yourself. I get that deep.
Like
with it for sure.
I need to feel like I'm contributing, and need to feel like I'm doing something that makes people look at a piece and feel a certain way. Like when you make music, people listen to music, they feel a certain way. You're making a direct contribution to someone's emotional state.
Mhm.
I want to feel like my work does that.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Yours. I like this conversation because we have our casual hanging out at a party, family gathering conversations. They're cool, and we have some deep ones too. You know what I'm saying? But this is really like getting to the core of it with that kind of
Sure.
stuff, man. Something brilliant to say. I just left my mind. What were we just saying?
We were saying like, like having meaning in the work and feeling like you're not, like how it affects your self-esteem, your self-worth.
Yeah.
If you're not like, contributing in a way that feels like you're.
Yeah, and well, I forgot what I was going to say with
That's
that, but
okay.
I'm the point is, I really connect with that, man. Like when, yeah, there's no work coming in for long periods of time, and I'm not scratching that itch. Like it gets dark, and I'm very lucky to have a 9 to 5 to pay the bills and stuff like that as a teacher and stuff like that. So I'm happy I don't have to attach it all to getting the art accomplished. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I also think that's for me personally, that's healthy to
Yeah.
remove the
I think
financial
that's smart
dependency
for
off
anyone
it.
listening.
Yeah.
Like people that are, oh, I want to do my music, my art for a living. Like
Mm,
keep a real job for as long as you can, or as long as you really, really need to.
mm.
Like don't rush to quit. Like having those like handcuffs, like to your job, not necessarily a bad thing. Like it's
Yeah.
a good thing to be to be able to keep a hold on to the magic of the creative process, to keep it, to cherish it, is so valuable.
Mhm.
So valuable.
I encourage, and this is based off my life experience, which is kind of what I did. I encourage like young people to go for it when they're young. Like you're young, maybe you have a significant other. You know what I'm saying? You're not much responsibility tying you down. Like take the risk. You know, for me that was just my entire 20s, just touring and writing and trying to do a freelance all the way. Stubborn commitment where you could sleep on a couch and not be, not let it bother you, you know what I'm saying, or get by with the bare minimum, and as you get older, if you become successful very young, great, then you just grow up with the craft, don't mess it up, right? And then you're good. But if you take the long path, which I consider myself the long path, I'm 40 now, and I just like 2-3 years ago got into the film scoring thing. You know what I'm saying? For me personally, hitting a reset button so hard like that and still really going for it, but now on this path, because an opportunity came my way that just got me in there, you know what I'm saying? It's intimidating, and then more feelings of imposter syndrome and self-doubt creep in, oh, you don't got time for this, you got kids now, and like, when those hours you barely have ever, you do have them, and you're behind your computer and you're just falling asleep because you can't even, you fight for that time, it puts it to the test,
It's so important, like just keeping in your mind what the why is, what your purpose is, because like there's so many. Instead of like convoluting it into like one big thing, like I think Chelsea and I, we try to do this one as a couple, right? So like there's certain situations that have to do with you as roommates. There's certain situations that have to do with you as co-parenting together. Certain things have to do with finances, and like I think in marriages and businesses and as a creative person, there's all these different roles. And it's a sloppy yet common thing to do. Just mix all those roles together and be like, I'm not a successful artist, husband, wife, whatever the thing is, as opposed to just saying like, well, there's the business side, there's the creative side, there's a side of maybe you're in an office or studio or house with someone else. Like there's like the roommate aspect or a coworker situation. There's so many aspects to it. So like each role has its own why, its own purpose. And I feel like each one, in order to be balanced with this weird life that we have, you have to make sure like the role of the business guy, the role of the spouse, the parent, all these things, the role of the creator, they all have to have a connection with like, why am I doing this compartmentalized role or task. I want to make sure that we hit a couple things. Like I know you would want to talk about like the Bezos project. I don't want to
Sure.
I don't want like us to finish talking. You're like, fuck, I forgot to bring up that one thing.
Oh, no agenda, man. I bet
Okay.
you're loving what we're talking about.
Yeah, I
well,
do too,
let's
man.
talk about that. But the one thing you reminded me of what I wanted to say. I forgot. And thank you for going through that again. Was if you go for a young and then you hit a point where it's like I have to have more stable stuff. If you can be creative in the way you get that 9-to-5 full-time work that's required to make ends meet and still have it somehow be connected to the dream career you're working on in any way, and you're efficient in that way, it helps, So for me, being a music teacher, and more specifically an instrumental music teacher, so I am teaching 4th and 5th graders and middle school kids how to play instruments.
Dude, how many instruments do you play?
Well, I'm a percussionist. That's my professional instrument, right? I would play that in any gig. That's what I do, right?
Yeah.
I can play all the instruments I teach, and then some.
Which is like name them
To a certain level.
a proficient level, like
yeah, to be a teacher,
enough
and
to be at a
and play.
party, and you're like, oh, you have a trombone. Let me play something for you.
Yes, exactly. Well, I teach all the band and wind ensemble instruments. It's like flute, clarinet, saxophone, trumpet, trombone. Wind instruments, stuff like that. String instruments, violin, viola, cello, bass, right?
Guitar.
We just started a guitar program last year.
But you play it though.
Yes. I can play chords and play tunes. I would not be able to rip a lead or anything like that. But yeah, I can. Yeah, I know my chords and.
So can you? All right. So this shit, like, I don't care if this bores anyone, but
okay.
This stuff is like so cool to me. Like, can you demystify this for me? So
sure,
it's
yeah.
like, is it a similar thing to like once you learn one, the rest are just easier? Everyone always says that, but.
An instrument?
Yeah, and like I've also heard, which makes total sense to me, like learning drums and or piano first is like a great foundation. Is that true?
I say that a lot. Yeah, I say that a lot. Lots of people say that.
Because like I attempt to play guitar, and one of the things that's hardest for me is like keeping the rhythm. Or I'll be playing a song and like halfway through my tempo changed. Like I feel like that if I learned like one of my regrets, I'm like, oh fuck, I wish I learned drums or something where it's like I could learn,
I think, all right, this is like a very music teacher kind of point of view on it, but like, everybody has musicality inside them. The way you feel the beat, the way you tap your foot, right? The way you internalize music. And some people are very private about that. It might just be like tapping their finger and like trying to hide that they're into the music. And it'll be other people, like our kids, just like fearlessly dancing in the living room, not caring, right? The instrument is the thing, literally the instrument that you're using to get that musicality to come out, right? And then those instruments work in different ways and make different types of sound. So, playing guitar, no matter you're talking about playing chords, playing tunes, right? Is good because, yes, you need good rhythm, like you said, and you have good rhythm, man. Like I know what you're saying, you want to tighten up. Okay, that's rote and practice, but if you have a good feel and you know how to make chord shapes, you can get in the game of playing music rather simply. And I'm not saying it's simple because it's not, but like at a faster rate. Whereas a student or an adult, whoever, learning a flute for the first time, for example, just getting the sound out of that instrument is a thing that if a young child has trouble, it's difficult. You have to make your mouth shape a certain thing. You're blowing across the whole like a soda bottle.
Mechanically, there's something
very challenging mechanically, and you're trying to teach like a 9-year-old.
As opposed to a piano, where you're just like touching the key. I mean, obviously, there's a technique.
I'd say piano's a little different.
Yeah.
Guitar. This is why we started guitar. Just also it's awesome to have, but like we like the spirit of guitar, and because the barrier to starting to play music, play at a party, jam along, is very low. If you can learn a couple chord shapes and you can just kind of do that, you can grab an acoustic and play with anybody. And then that's the bar of entry. A bar of entry on a wind instrument or string instrument is so much training and technique learning just to get the first couple notes out. It's a much slower paced thing. It's a melodic instrument, meaning it only plays one note at a time. Guitar, you're playing chords.
Right.
So, you're not, the melody is probably the tune you're singing. With your guitar, so you're not playing individual melodic lines.
Dude, just that alone is I would, like, if I had tons of money, I'd pay tons of money to know how to, like, sing while I'm playing properly. That's just like that. Like,
don't think too hard, man. Just let it come out. Seriously, man. The more you teach music, you realize the musicality is on the inside, and you got to bring it out, and you got to be able to communicate how to bring it out in different ways to different people. That's what being a good music teacher is, man. And, the guitar is great for that. You're not missing out because you didn't play drums or this or that. You could do whatever you want to at any time, right?
Sure.
But guitar is great for rhythm too, man. Like you're on the right instrument to get that. Whereas if you were going like do 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 do,
Mm,
your whole way of feeling the music is
right.
and then finger accuracy and then
Mm-hmm.
listening, right? Where guitar, I mean, just think how like, oh man, flute especially, the finger combinations all over the place with the oboe or the bassoon are like terrible, like very confusing instruments to play, you know? Whereas guitar, it's a bigger motion, just the way your body moves, right?
Mm,
And you could just bring out more raw what's inside without less
yeah.
bullshit to have to go through to make it sound right,
Right.
you know? So that's the right instrument for that, for sure, man. And I like guitar. I'm not a great guitar player. I know my chords, but you know, we started a guitar class in the school I work at because we realized like, well, what if kids just don't identify with like the classical, we'll say classical instruments, winds and strings and stuff like that, in that environment, big ensembles, proper training, reading music, blah blah blah. And those kids lose interest in doing that or just don't because it's mechanically challenging. Whereas guitar, we just get them playing like right away. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Even if we just strum, it's cool. All right, we're strumming,
Yeah.
and that's okay. Like that's the only goal for that group is to play tunes. We're not teaching classical guitar or like trying to force guitar in the world of.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna say for the sake of obvious, like classical training of
Right.
instruments, you know, and letting it be its own thing. You have to foster that, you know, and that's not a very school idea. A lot of schools are still like traditional jazz bands, orchestras, and stuff like that. The jazz band is the most out there thing, and I mean, there's a
I
lot of
love
great.
jazz, man.
There's and New Jersey has so many awesome jazz band programs and stuff like that. It really thrives here, probably because it's vicinity to New York. You know
That's
what I'm saying?
probably what I paint to most,
Really?
jazz.
No kidding.
Most often. I mean, I definitely switch it up. Like, there's some
Yeah,
days you'll like catch me listening to a podcast, or some days I'll
like
listen to
big
like
band stuff or
Metallica.
like small combo stuff.
Nine
Or
times out of ten, Miles Davis,
okay,
or like his John Coltrane, or
yeah.
like, but then I'll mix in like Chick Corea, or like having like Herbie
Love Chick Corea.
Hancock, or
Yeah.
like just, but like, if I put on like a Spotify mix based on Miles Davis,
Oh,
like,
win. Yeah.
like 9 times out of 10, that's my go-to, where I feel
Yeah.
like I'm most connected.
Yeah.
I'll catch my brush like bouncing to the bass.
Mm. Dude, that's music of our country, man. That's jazz is amazing.
Yeah,
Jazz is
love it.
like I would say this with like a preface, like I don't mean this in a snooting way. I just feel like jazz is one of the most like evolved elite forms of music because like to learn the changes in jazz and the amazing all the different modes and scales you can
It's
play
so
and
like
the
not
dense
structured. Like there's not like, in the way I understand music,
yeah.
which is very novice, but in the way I understand it, it's not like there's like chorus, verse, and bridge and
Yeah.
whatever. It's just, I love how it like it's going around, like when you, especially when you hear like live recordings of jazz and you can hear them like just riffing off each other,
Yeah.
and you hear a guy like hit a note or a certain thing, and you're like, you could tell that he was either off or experimenting, or there's something that doesn't fit, and then you hear everyone catch up with it,
Yeah.
or vice versa. Like as I'm painting, I feel like that music makes me open to doing the same thing. Like I'm like, I'll be painting in something where I'm convinced that this section is like, let's say, based in like a maroon palette,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think that subconsciously I'm hearing that jump around, and I'm like, well, why don't I just switch it up and throw a yellow or a green in? Like that's weird.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can do that, and work my way out of it, make it work. And a lot of
Fascinating.
times I find myself taking chances, which I feel like is for me, I relate to the way I paint, sort of like jazz, where I kind
Mm.
of like work myself into a hole and work my way back out, and then I try to bring that pattern or melody around somewhere else in the painting to repeat in a subtle way,
Yeah.
and like have like layers to it. So I feel like I don't know how to make music like you do, but I feel like intuitively it must be a similar feeling.
Well, I mean, that's pretty cool, actually. It's fascinating description of that, man. Thanks for that. It's really cool to learn about what's going on up here, you know, in your brain when you're in the mode painting. It's fascinating to see the parallels between music, what's different, what's the same, you know.
Mm,
I mean, jazz, I was going to ask you, I mean, it sounds to me from that description, you like the improving aspect, which I mean, jazz is
yeah, I love it.
obviously, you know, is improving all the time. But I was gonna say, I think another part of jazz is from the improving part is the just the harmonic language, man. Like it's so I don't know how to describe it. It's beautiful, unique, complex. Like said John Coltrane, Miles Davis, the things that these guys understand about the inner workings of how the notes work, man. It's just like being connected to like the base code of the universe kind
So,
of stuff, man.
talking, dude, tell me your thoughts, bro. But like
Yeah.
earlier, we were saying how you shouldn't have to rely on something like a chemical crutch or something like that. Jazz, in my opinion, jazz never would have come out if those guys weren't so fucked up.
Oh man, yeah. Well, yes. I mean, I think sadly, that became a
Yeah, it was
huge,
tragic, but it's like would they have taken those crazy chances?
I don't know, man. I mean, like, I would hesitate to even put an opinion on that. I feel it'd be so sacrilegious. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they were the best around, and I think it's sad that there was an end that's coming because of drug use. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think it came, and I don't know, man. I mean, again, okay, so they're all partying and doing drugs and stuff like that. I still, again, to what I was saying before, like, it's not where the genius comes from. Excuse me, my voice is losing. Where the genius comes from.
Aren't there different like flavors of genius though? There's like the mechanical part of it. There's like the creative part of it. Like for instance, like if I'm painting a still life or something, there's a certain creative genius that's like, okay, see this and either reproduce it or represent it on this canvas. I see that, putting that here. It might be a different style. There's that, but then there's like, I'm going to take a blank canvas, and the only thing I'm looking at is what's in my head. And there's a difference of like that type of creativity.
Okay.
Like if I'm painting a portrait of you.
So you're not seeing the painting in your head as you're doing it, or is it just kind of revealing itself as you go?
Yeah, it's like it's
wild.
It's more revealing. There's occasions where I feel like I kind of see it, but it's more like an abstract feeling of me seeing. Like I see it, but it's more of an abstract feeling. Like if a feeling could be visual. But then it's like I'll do sections of a piece, or I'll stand back and instantly get a flash. It's like almost like a flash card. Like, here's the answer you're looking for. Someone picked, and you're like, wait, what? I just saw it a second ago. And then it's like you have like a very brief moment to like capture it because it literally was right there.
See, yeah, you can't leave a voice memo on your phone for a painting idea in the moment.
No scratch tracks.
Let me just put that over there.
I've tried that, like where it's like you try to leave like a visual scratch track or something.
Really?
And it's like you're in the moment. You're like, oh, dude, I'm feeling it. I'll totally know what this means tomorrow. And you look at it, you're like, the fuck's that?
Yeah, just like alien language. You left yourself from a different time.
But at the time, you're like, oh my god, this is it, bro.
That's funny. Oh my god, dude, it's I'm impressed that. And not impressed. That's something to say. I'm like, I didn't even know that you listened to music when you painted. I was wondering that. I mean, it makes sense. It puts you in a certain mood, right? But
sometimes I'll like throw on Metallica or Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, but you have music rolling the whole time.
Not the whole time. Sometimes I'll do like binaural beats, or sometimes I'll listen to
the tone. Yeah,
or sometimes I'll listen to like ocean sounds, or sometimes or a lot of times I listen to either podcasts or audiobooks.
Okay.
It depends. This is going to sound
painting?
Like. Yeah, this is going to sound like maybe, or might sound like multi personality disorder of sorts.
Okay.
But like, there's different parts of me that are painting. There's a guy in me that loves to do nothing but like detail work, like get lost in details, like get a freaking magnifying glass and be precision, brush marks. There's a guy, the painter in me, that loves to do that. But then there's another painter in me. I don't know his name, let's say, but he loves to be just fucking sloppy and get the brush, goopy paint, and appreciates the textures. And that guy has no interest whatsoever in detail work at all. and there's these different personas, and each one kind of has its own musical taste.
Yeah.
So I put on if I'm at a certain portion of the painting where I know this one personality in me will thrive, I'll put on that music, and then it's like, oh, thanks, I'm here. Here I am. Oh, that's what you want me to do? Like, go crazy. Then it's like I feel like that persona in me start to like almost like take over, where it's like it almost like feels like he's gonna take the wheel and like kick everyone else out. And that's when it's time to switch it up because he's getting too cocky.
Goopy paint guy could get dangerous, I would imagine.
What's
right?
that?
A goopy paint guy could get dangerous, I'd imagine.
It could, but it's really fun. It's really fun.
That's awesome, man.
It's weird.
Yeah,
but it's the same way. It's got to be the same with music. And I've had conversations with Dave where it's like, I've seen him be like the loose musician and then I've seen him spend like way too much time, like you said, on a couple notes.
Yeah,
and I'm like, dude, you're getting way too crazy like right now.
I feel like you're revealing the sculptor like part of the craft of creating something. Like I say sculptor because like it's easy to imagine like the big picture steps, like just big cuts away at the block, and then versus like taking a tiny knife and like doing a
I feel like
hair.
with sculpting, you probably can't do it as much.
No, but it's just more in a general sense of like
chipping away, go crazy.
Goopy guy or
Yeah.
something to me is like a big picture action, right? So maybe you're doing something with the sculpting, just kind of take a whole piece away. Whereas detail guy is like the little chisel. And music, it's kind of similar, man. It's it's interesting because I think of music, especially when you're composing stuff. So I mean that in opposition, like maybe just playing in a band and tunes, and that's the nature of the music. This is why I love film scoring. It's all about creating really unique sounds and textures. It's like painting to me too. Like it's hard to describe it. Like when I hear the sound, I see certain, I don't want to say images, but like densities and colors and space. Like one sound might be really, it dissipates a lot in the air and it's thin and it's airy. It might be like gaseous, and there's other sounds that have like little visual points. Like I kind of see that all in my head when I think about the balance of a score. Like working with sound is like, it's like balancing color, but there's like a weight to each voice, and it's not just like, I don't mean just as, but it's not just a visual weight. Like when you see something visually, okay, my eyes are saying, in music, like we feel different things. You feel your speakers move in the air, right? Or the thump of a drum or the airiness. So that's part of it too, you know? So, you know, if you're trying to balance something out, maybe you have something that's really like cloudy and foggy, right? And then your percussion stuff's more pointed, little dots off in the distance or something like that that you see. And then other instruments have more, you know, width to them, and they come in and out and stuff like that. And they all have to exist in their own space. So I wish there was a way that I could like paint what I see in my head. I don't think it's interesting necessarily. It's just that like there's definitely a way of visualizing sound in your head. As different textures. Yeah. It's not a color thing for me as much as it's like a mass thing, like gas airy thing.
Well, it's interesting. Like when you say color thing, I think you think of it differently than me. Like
color means something different in music. It's timbre. Timbre is color. Like if I hit this can and I hit your coffee mug and this table, this will have it'll all be one hit, the same thing, but like this will have a knocking sound.
Sure.
This will have a ting, and that'll have a boop or whatever, right? Different characteristics.
But when it comes down to it, it's like a different feeling, right?
Yeah.
Like you could describe it in frequency. You could describe it as like a label, like it's this whatever music term or that whatever music term, or you could say it's like a feeling, and all those descriptions are correct. So in essence, you can create in any of those paradigms, right? Like you can create as the academic person using like theory and whatever else.
Yep.
You can create as like someone that's intuitively feeling what goes together, or you can do, you know, more of like a combination, I suppose, right?
Yeah, I mean, theory exists whether we know about it or not in some ways.
100%.
It's just so like, it's when people think about, you know, all right, so when we tend to say music theory, stuff like that, we tend to mean complex forms of music, right, that prides itself on its artistic complexity, like orchestra music, blah, 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 classical music, whatever, versus like a tune with a band that's like guitar and bass just jamming and singing along, right? Not that that's any less great, but it's just different, right? That's not priding itself on its artistic complexity. It's the soulful nature of the song. It's human experience, right? But what was the parallel I was trying to draw there? Forgetting a lot of things.
It's okay.
I get so excited from this conversation. When you talk, like 8,000 things go off in my head, like, yeah, man, like that. And then it's like, all right, your turn to talk. And I'm like
while you're thinking,
I want to say like 8 things at once. I'm just like, you know.
While you're getting your thought, like, so for me, it's like, I know the theory, right?
Yeah.
I know how to practice it. I learned it, blah, blah, blah. But I still, for me, and this is not good or bad, but for me, I paint better when the theory is like just subconscious.
Yeah.
Like if I'm trying to get a certain color, and I'm like, wow, I know if I mix this with a complementary color and then I add this, it'll dull it down. But like that analogy, it works, but there's not as much soul as when I just feel like, what do I feel? And I look on the palette and I just start mixing not random, opposite of random. When I start mixing things,
right. There's intent there.
Yeah, there's intention, but it's like I start mixing things that normally under the mindset of like theory, I wouldn't necessarily add this color or this amount of that color.
Yeah.
Theory doesn't necessarily tell you to do that per se, but when you're just going with it, it's like I'm adding it because I'm 100% confident this will work, and I just know it's going to get me there a different way. There's something about that brings about an unorthodox product. Or,
yeah.
You know, product being the painting.
Well, but the theory is still there.
Of
Even by you
course.
saying, "Oh, theory dictates I wouldn't do this
Right.
here."
Yeah.
That's theory.
It's like, athletics. You
Yeah.
can say, you can describe what's athletically or physically in the physical
Yeah.
world going on. This guy jumps, this happens, and that Newton's theory or whatever, blah blah blah. Of course, it's always there.
Yeah, but yeah, there's definitely a difference between like I'm writing this thing with the intention of showing off theoretical stuff, but
Right.
but it's fine. We were just talking about jazz, right?
Yep.
Jazz music, the theory behind jazz music is so wonderful, beautiful, and complex.
I would love to be able to play
But
jazz, dude.
we tend not to think of it in the same idiom as like classical music study, even though it's built from that and just evolved pretty much, So with music, there are people obviously that know a lot about theory and they write music like that. But I find more and more that there's certain things I like about that, and that's still, as a musician, I like that, But I'm really drawn to like simplicity, you know what I'm saying? And I'm trying to get more in touch with that now. Being a drummer, growing up playing drums, you're naturally complex. You play lots of notes, you know what I'm saying? All the drumline stuff I used to do, and the drum corps stuff, or these big productions playing lots of notes. The intent of it is to show off your excellence and lay down, But there's music I like that's just, like I said, could be a guitar player, singer, just it touches you, That's something different, And I'm amazed by that because I've written a few songs and I've done some work in that area, but I'm not like a songwriter or anything like that. And when you can write, you were talking about Jack Johnson and Norah Jones. The minute I graduated from my undergraduate, I was feeling good. I was doing like a lot of band stuff, a lot of the things you're talking about, like composing theoretical, interesting things, and it was cool. But then, like, I found myself on my like super old school. I think I had an iPod back then, right around those times.
Little wheel.
Yeah. I had a lot of Jack Johnson and Norah Jones, and like, I'm not saying they're not complex or anything like that, but it's just like, man, such beauty and such vibes being hit from just, oh, dude, Norah Jones, man, oh my God.
Our kids were born to Norah Jones playing all of them.
That's amazing. Do they know that?
Yeah, they do.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
And like we just took the kids to Jack Johnson.
Yeah.
And they've seen him a couple times. So
yeah. Jack Johnson was Glaucia and I's wedding song. Do you remember? We love that song.
The first time my kids were at Jack Johnson was at See Here Now, the first one, and they were too young to like appreciate it. But it's like we were backstage on top of like the whatever the thing is called backstage with like a second level to it or whatever, like looking down at like Jack and the band, and like kids like fell asleep through it. But like, afterwards we saw Jack and got a picture with him and like holding our sleeping children.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah, I mean those musicians you mentioned, just like it doesn't have to be like super complex.
No, man.
It's like
it's the soul of it. It's the soul of it. I mean,
passion, the energy, the feeling.
Why do we feel something? Assuming you do, I think most people do. If you hear like a hundreds and hundreds year old hymn or something like that sung beautifully, it touches you somehow. And it's just there's things that come out of just being human. Like in music, I tend to think of like folk songs and stuff like that. A lot of pentatonic scale songs, stuff like that. And we still find them beautiful today, and they touch us. And it's interesting because we've evolved with these computers to be able to do all this complex music and live stuff. Yet still,
but a lot of it is soulless. A lot of the stuff, like a lot of the AI, either AI stuff or the filters that are put on.
Well,
shit,
yeah, AI
like,
stuff is certainly not gonna have a soul for sure.
Still,
it might end up sounding damn good.
Yeah.
I mean, AI is. I mean, you want to talk about that? I mean, it's.
I don't even want to talk about that.
No, okay, good. Let's skip that topic because
I think like what you're talking about. I don't know if this is too like mystical and hokey pokey stuff, but I feel like music, art, colors.
Yeah.
They're all frequencies. Right?
Oh yeah.
And to some extent, it's the music, the art. It's all information, right? It's like data.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm feeling, or if you're feeling a certain way as the music or the art or the image, whatever appears to us out of freaking thin air, right? Whether you're on a deadline or not, some weird shit that doesn't exist 1 second is there, right?
Yeah.
So it's like
summoned.
And on some level, whether that's a thought, whether it's a spiritual entity, whatever words you want to use to describe whatever that is, on some level, it's got to be related to a frequency of energy, right?
Yeah.
So it's not that weird to think that maybe subconsciously we can almost feel or download that information, that feeling. So we say it's passion, but maybe there's like a certain frequencies. Like maybe when you see a certain color combination or a certain amount of texture or a certain, like you said, ding, or a certain whatever, maybe it's like those frequencies, like it may be disguised or masqueraded as a song or a painting, but how do we know that we're not just like taking that feeling that we have, mixing it up in a certain way and like re-encoding it into the visual or to the audible?
Yeah.
Right? So like maybe that passion like we're talking about that's beyond complexity is actually the transference of like that feeling that a creator has, giving it to you in a way that you could digest.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I mean, that's our ultimate goal, right? To be able to do just that really, really fucking well, right?
Yeah.
And then do it for a living, love life, and be successful, man. I mean, yeah, I suppose, if you're one of the greats in your crafts, you know what I'm saying? You probably have more of that figured out than some of us still trying to figure it out, right? It's that thing you don't know what it's called, you don't quite understand, but it just connects with that sixth sense kind of thing of hearing a song or seeing a piece of art that moves you or something like that. We live and die for that, man, you know, and that's the aspect of singer-songwriter stuff that I like. Like I listened to Dan Guger from Echo Movement, got me into some
What's up, Dan?
Yeah, well, what's up, Dan? He used to play a lot of bluegrass stuff on tour. On the bus, he like would rip the mandolin out, and these guys would be jamming tunes, like really good stuff. Like, we used to like when we, toured in the mountains or maybe down south. We hung out with people, and, excuse me, and they would have the mandolin out, playing folk tunes and stuff like that, tearing it up. And I got into Nickel Creek because of him. Man, my voice is going. Excuse me. And from there, I got into a group called the Waylon Jennies. Like I would say, like contemporary folk, like just amazing singing, beautiful harmonies, minimal instruments, and just from the soul, man. And nothing like it. Complex thing over here, can't replace that. And I want to figure out how to tap into those vibes. I might not ever do singer-songwriter stuff, but I even think through instrumental music, film composing, like you just write that thing that just taps the soul the right way and it becomes timeless, man. I mean, and if you could do that, man, you get a glimpse into that unknown science like you're talking about, this frequency. What's the relationship? How do I tap into it? And I think we'll die chasing it, man. And hopefully we touch it a couple times. You know what I'm saying?
So I'm thinking we should probably wrap up pretty soon, but I want to give you a few stories that I'd love to like either talk about or hear. You could pick whichever you want to riff off of. Maybe none, or maybe it might bring us to a tangent. So I know like got the Jeff Bezos story, which seems pretty awesome to hear about. Just freaking went blank. Oh, our NFT projects we're working on. We could talk about that, and to go totally fucking random. This is a story that I haven't heard the whole story of. Back in the day, Dave told me, or I knew about it. I don't know, but the story of Echo Movement playing a nudist colony.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
So, which of those three do you want to talk about?
I could touch on them all. I'll give you 3 sentences about the small stuff, and we'll talk. I'll talk about the film real quick, and I do want to talk about the NFT. Okay, because I'll get closer to the mic as my voice gives out more and more. I haven't talked this much, and I've also stared teaching this week full time.
Like,
and I'm like,
you teach, so you talk to like people a lot.
I just started 2 days ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with like talking, and I've lost my voice. By day 2, I'm like shot right now.
Like spend a lot of my days down here, like locked in. Like
I do too when I'm in the studio, but now I'm back on the job again. It just hit me hard. That's why I sound like a horse.
Drink some water, bro.
I'm out actually.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Sorry. So, oh god. The nudist colony thing. Yeah, we got somewhere in Florida. Can't remember the name. I'm sorry. It was a youth nudist colony. I got to say, like, it's they take it seriously. Not a joke at all. Nobody, like, I think you would just be embarrassed if
no one's like walking around with a towel rack.
No, everybody's definitely naked for sure.
I mean, like their own.
No. Now the band did not get naked. Some of us were tempted and wanted to, but I chickened out. I couldn't. So, but it was not a sexual thing. I would say it was. They're very nice people, and this is just what they do. I mean, they have very polite customs. Like when they came on the tour bus, they brought towels to sit on. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you say it's not a sexual thing. You're telling me no one in the band may or may not have.
Oh no, there was, I'm telling you, no, there was none of that, man. Like that was not the vibe, and it was surprising. I mean, I wasn't so naive to think like, oh, a nudist colony is just a big orgy sex party, right? Like, no,
No, I'm
but
sure
like,
not.
I was really surprised. Like, it's just they enjoy doing that, and it's not a big deal to them. It's not like you would be looked at as immature if you made a joke, or I think they would be very turned off if someone made like a sexual pass at someone. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
It was just like a festival where they were super grateful to have us, man, and they were naked. You know what I'm saying? And I wanted to, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I chickened out. So that's that with the nudist colony thing. What was it? We had one other thing aside from the film
NFTs and Jeff Bezos.
Oh, that was it. Okay.
I don't know anything else you want to riff off of. I'm just trying to think what we should hit before we wrap up.
NFT thing, man.
So I probably got to eat dinner at some point.
Yeah, sorry, we talked a long time.
I could talk for hours.
Me too. All right.
I'm just like being like the dad, husband guy where I'm like, I guess I should go not leave my wife alone with the kids for that long. So
my gauge for that, it's funny, your kids are growing up a little bit, is just how much noise I'm hearing upstairs. Once I start hearing clanging and more than one child crying and then maybe some shuffling of furniture, I know like, okay, it's time to go. Let's get upstairs. The NFT thing, man, it was awesome. So you came to me with the idea of you were animating your oil paintings in like subtle ways where it would move and flow and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
my
then,
thought was like basically a lot of people had asked me, when are you going to start releasing some of your better known paintings as NFTs? And I didn't want to it felt like sacrilegious to just, here you go. I'll save it as a JPEG and now it's an NFT. Like for me, it was like, what can I do with this new medium that could take these paintings to another level? Like, so for instance, Fairy Tales is one of the first ones, one of the first three that we kind of tackled. And for me, it was like this painting had a very definitive narrative, and I was like, how can I make that narrative into like almost like a mini movie, or how can I take it to the next level? And then then you got involved, and I'm like, of course, like music would be sick, and then to have like you involved, because we already did a project, the choreographed dance production of Fairy Tales. It was like such a natural fit, you know, and like so I knew you had a connection with the painting previous, and then you came on.
Yeah, so Fairy Tales. No, Burning Inspiration was the very first one.
That was the very, very
okay,
first.
cool.
Which I haven't released yet, but I'm going to soon.
Hey, stay tuned. Yeah, let's go. All right.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. Do people still say that? Stay tuned.
It's like one of those like things where it's like people will say like, I hear people still use reference like I'll videotape it or like or like
I
some
say that,
things where it's like, wait, what? That doesn't actually mean anything.
I know. Well, the save icon, why is it a floppy disk? And people know that.
Right.
Like many children don't know what that means.
Right.
It means
That's
save.
The save icon. Yeah.
We used to hold those. I was gonna say, so yeah, I love your art, man. It's awesome. It's inspiring. So, and I dig music set to art and those kinds of things, and like visual art that's either stationary or moving with music. Just the idea of a visual medium with music is, I think, in its most general sense, what I like doing the most. So we did Burning Inspiration. We did a couple passes at it. Sound cool. We also did Warm Stare, right? And we did Fairy Tales. And is there a fourth?
Those three, I think.
Those three. Okay, right. Okay, cool. So for me, like, it was doubly awesome because like I could just try to write a music to a still painting of yours, and I would enjoy doing that. Like, I can get inspiration from a still piece of visual art and compose something. That's not new. Lots of composers have done that in the past really, really well. But it gives me inspiration. Then to see those elements move a little bit and just enough motion to complement the vibe, the concept behind it. It's like, now I got what I need. And also, we are talking about bite-sized 20, 30-second loops, right? Which is the idea is that the music just loops upon itself with the image. And then, I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I've heard you talk in other interviews about like images of, frames we have on the wall in the future that display your paintings and do the things that we do. It becoming like the norm.
Yeah,
right?
I could totally see that. Like sometime in the future, there'll be some like Apple or Samsung thing that everyone just owns, just like an iPhone. They'll have some sort of frame TV or something that we can't even imagine into words. Like there'd be something, a device or something in everyone's house where they will have like their art
Yeah.
kind of rotating or whatever it might be. And so
It's kind of surprising we don't have that already, isn't it?
there's like they have the photo frames, like, but there's nothing that's like a standardized thing that everyone has.
Yeah.
Like even photo frames, like most people don't have them. Like people, we have one, but most people don't. Or they'll have like photos on their Apple TV or like, but there's not like a really cool looking one yet that I know of.
Like a centerpiece art piece. Yeah,
like something that looks really fucking dope. But I could picture that. Like someday, people will own like some of my early NFTs, and then like, whenever in the future, people will be like, "Wow, I own that piece," and and to have like this 20 or 30-second clip with your music on it that loops seamlessly, and it just seems like a really cool thing to collect.
It's super cool, man. Yeah, and it would be awesome to have a big media place to consume that standardized, and maybe you're just ahead of the curve, man. Yeah. You'll be the first one there. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely not the first, but I think I see a vision.
That... Life imitates art, right?
Yeah.
I'm saying we were using iPads in Star Trek in 1991. Just saying, right?
Yeah.
So
right.
But I love writing the music to it. It gave me a chance to do something that's always been in my head anyway. And seeing the elements move in the painting provide enough opportunity to create motion in the music or a mood. The warm stare, man, like that invokes some serious imagery and stuff like that. You want to tell them?
I mean, I love. So those are both those are all like figurative pieces of mine.
Yeah.
They're definitely not surf pieces.
No.
And so for me, I've always loved like figurative work. Like when I go to a museum, I love spending time on like the Dutch masters from like the 1500s. Or, like I love that period of art, and a lot of that art, like the Rubin or the Caravaggio collection, things like that. Like I love those periods of art. A lot of it is like either nudes or a very narrative painting about some kind of biblical scene or a portrait or like, and I love that work. And so the idea of using those like sort of subject matters or those stories and do it in a style that's like unique to me, that's sort of like my home, I guess, with art. And it's just like, it's kind of like that was like sort of like a foundation of what I want to do with my painting. And then it just sort of through a series of instances that happened in my life, I ended up living at the beach and surfing a lot more. And I just say, hey, what would happen if I took those figurative pieces that I've always done and put them in scenes of paintings? Whereas people that might not know that, let's say there's like people that know my work, they might think it was the opposite, that I had these surfer paintings and now I'm like all of a sudden putting them in these other things, but it's actually quite the opposite. So anyway, Warm Stare, was a piece that I did, and it was a female, very bootylicious nude woman near a window.
Yep.
I don't know. To me, there's something like mysterious and like sexy about the idea of like whenever I go to the city, I always look out the window. I'm like, is someone going to be here naked? Like looking across like the city block, imagining like what you're going to see in each window, like the stories, like each window that you're looking at when you're at New York, when you're in the city. You're like, each one is almost like a picture frame. Like, what does this story tell?
Yeah.
And it's like, what does that window tell? What is this? And so the idea of like going inside that window and like feeling the freedom of like, you know what? Here's all of me. I'm sitting here having a glass of wine. I'm fucking chill, nude at the windows. There's a breeze blowing in.
Yep.
Whoever wants to see me can see me. And like that freedom that woman felt in that painting, I sort of like both become her as well as the guy across looking at her. Sort of like that connection of like the voyeur almost like and so like that painting has a lot to do with that feeling of like freedom and just like being open and all that. So then you made the music to it was perfect. It had like city sounds in the background. It was kind of had a perfect amount of like kind of like just like not mystery but sort of like intrigue. And I loved what you did with that. I think you nailed it so fast.
Oh, thank you, man.
Yeah.
It's just the painting itself, even before you animated some of the elements. Like you said, there's a breeze. Like I picked up on that from a painting, not because I saw something blow up. Oh my God, we have to wrap it up.
Like, who's that jazz guy? Was it Dizzy Gillespie? Skip it back. Yeah.
The painting has such mood that I pick up on that breeze,
Yeah.
So it was easy to write.
Yeah.
My voice is shot, man.
Yeah,
I need a sip of water. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Dude, this is great, dude. I definitely could talk for hours.
Yeah.
If I wasn't also a dad that has to get kids to bed
Yeah.
next hour.
I can really go on a tangent, man. I'm sorry.
No,
So,
dude, I love it, man.
Yeah.
I miss our conversations. Like
I know.
this,
I
you
feel like
know,
a giddy little kid because I'm chilling with you here first.
yeah.
So it's like I'm hanging with another dude. I'm out of the
Like,
house. Like
relatable.
yeah.
I don't think guys are good at that at all. Like I see
Not right now.
I see how good my wife is at like sort of making sure she schedules like walks with the girls in the boardwalk or like goes to coffee with this one or lunch. And like I'm like terrible at that. Okay, like I think as guys we're like just so mission focused. We're like I'm gonna spend my time getting shit done. I'm gonna do what needs to get done. Blah 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 blah. And it's like I'll hang out with so and so or whatever. I'll make time for myself whenever time allows itself. Then it's like 10 years go by and you're like, well, I guess it doesn't work that way, you know?
We're still figuring it out.
Yeah.
We'll learn, man. But it's all worth it.
Gotta go
right?
easy on ourselves, right?
Yeah. Well, I think we're entering a period of our life where we're figuring that out for the first time. Yeah. When you have a family, you have to balance those elements, right?
Yeah.
So.
Right on, brother.
I'm done, man. Thank you. Yeah, you too, man.